Hello there, everybody. Welcome to PlayVS, where we are going to be bringing you coverage of the Kentucky KHSAA High School League of Legends Varsity Final. My goodness, that is a mouthful. We've got a British invasion here on the caster desk, so make sure that we're not throwing any tea into any harbours. I'm Middlecott, going to be joined by Rude Dude.
Super excited for this one, Middlecott. Super excited to be alongside you guys looking at the next potential up and coming talents from the high school scene here in Kentucky. Two great teams that have had to battle it out all the way through to the finals, and we're certainly ready to hop on over and we get to see who we are looking at.
Yeah, it's going to be Henry Clay Blue from Henry Clay High School up against the Bluebirds hailing from Highlands High School. Both of these teams have had pretty impressive runs through our bracket, picking up those wins, and are now going to be facing off in the final to find out who is the champion. And Rude Dude, mate, it's nice to have some League of Legends on our screens in a few minutes' time, and I kind of want to take a little bit of a step back before we jump into this finals and just talk about how much I love these sorts of tournaments where we're getting to see these sort of like the real grassroots of competitive talent come through here in Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this is the first sort of incentive, I suppose, the first glimpse of competitive League of Legends that a lot of these players, a lot of these people are going to be exposed to. And if it starts to go well here, this is the type of event that can really inspire that confidence in players, give them that boost to start grinding out some ranks, to start really putting themselves up on that ladder, and potentially start to be getting scouted by bigger and better teams, getting into more and more amateur competitions. And you know, the NA scene right now, they're certainly booming with all of their amateur competition. There's so much to be looking forward to. But what you've got to look forward to right now, Middlecott, is that first draft.
Yeah, it is going to be a great one. Obviously, a best of three. So the winner of this game is not going to be the winner of the overall series, although maybe they will be. Getting that momentum in the game one is going to be oh so important. Set you up well for the remainder of the series. Now, Ban's going to come through, and Rude Dude, we are playing at a slightly lower level of competition. This isn't the LCS quite yet, so I'm expecting to see some meta bans come through. I feel like Decisive definitely fits into that pool, but then the Darius and the Shivana, an example of a couple bands that are maybe a bit more targeted.
Yeah, I mean, at this sort of area of level, I'm expecting more things like comfort bands to be taken away. That is a style that I'm much more accustomed to, and one that I'm going to be much more happy with when the players go for, okay, this person, we've scouted the OPGG. They like to play a lot of, for example, Vigar. Let's get that one off the board, and we'll start to move forward from there. But it looks like, straight off the rip here, we've got an Ornn. We wanted meta. This is, if you've been watching anything in North America, honestly, as far from LCS down to the collegiate scene that's going on as well. Jinx, Ornn are the powerhouses. Ornn, very good in the top lane. You don't really go wrong in that lane. You know, we've seen all of the memes recently about the counterpick Ornn challenge level impossible. We'll have to see what is in the back pocket. And it looks like a very entertaining, very high action paced top lane matchup.
All right, Rude Dude, let's calm down with the sarcasm. We don't need to be throwing it out quite yet. It's going to be that Malphite locked in. So another one of those tanks, another one of those big engagers in that top lane locked in. And an AD carry that I really love to see, that KHSAA coming through, can act so aggressive to follow up on those engagers.
And I want to see what style of KHSAA build we get as well, because it could be AP, could be AD, could be some variation of Collector plus Gale Force, where we go for the hybrid of a bit of burst and a bit of extra damage on top, or it could be that hardcore AD carry, hyper carry come the late game, where you go for things like Phantom Dancer, Kraken Slayer, and really start to chew through this very tanky front line that we've got on blue side right now, because Ornn and Leona on one side, you're going to need somebody to cut through those tanks.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult task, and obviously KHSAA is not an AD carry that's really designed to do that, can do that with a couple of the different builds that you end up going for. The Nami now going to be locked in, so we've got that bot lane pairing here for the red side team. Not really something that I see synergistically lining up very, very well, but again, it's one of those comfort picks. This is clearly a bot lane that Eli and Sir Pickles, they've played it a few times in this competition so far and are happy to go back to it.
And as well as that, there's that 1% chance, the smallest possibility that we have Faker in the Kentucky Grand Final.
True.
Where we pull out the Faker mid lane, and Deuce has an ace up his sleeve ready to go. And potentially pulls out that Kai'Sa in the mid lane. Of course, I say that this is a 1% chance. It's very unlikely. I haven't seen Eli already play this Kai'Sa a multitude of times. But I'm going to be looking on the other side here. We've got Misfortune Leona, which is typically a very winning laning phase for up against pretty much anything. If Breach and Oxide can get that lead, get that snowball rolling, this Kai'Sa could never really get going in the first place.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of CC, there's a lot of wombo combo potential. We've got through the second phase of bans. We saw HCB removing that Victor and the Ahri away from the mid lane pool, but BB targeting out the Xin Zhao and the Wukong, which I believe DeAndre Darvin has played in the jungle, so focusing different roles, and I believe that is going to be the Amumu locked in here, most likely going into the jungle, another one of those big engage tools.
And I like this to take away from BB here. We look at their composition and it is very wombo combo oriented. Solar Flare, Call the Forge God, Bullet Time is a very strong team fight. If you have a Curse of the Sad Mummy layered on top of that, that makes life incredibly difficult for HCB. Fortunately enough, the Amumu steal away means that now you've got a very good team fight composition. Tidal Wave, Curse of the Sad Mummy, Unstoppable Force. Kai'Sa may not be the best at going front to back, but when the enemy team is CC'd for 7 seconds at a time middle cut, which is a pretty better, it gets a lot easier.
It does get a lot easier, but the Silas is also going to have a pretty easy time up against Henry Clay, because those ultimates that you can steal are massive. Then the Hecarim comboed as well. It feels like Bluebirds, they really know what they want to do with this comp.
And when you take Silas and Hecarim together, the typical answer to Hecarim is actually Silas as a counter pick. So picking those two up in the same rotation, really, really well played from Bluebirds to get those two nice champions in at the same time, same token with one another. Henry Clay, they answer with a Corki on 5, making sure that they've got that little bit of reserved poke damage just in case. We've got a lot of engage on both sides, but if Deuce can be that difference maker before the fight gets started, finds a couple of big ones on the right targets, that can change the course of a fight before it's even started.
And I mean, it opens up the possibility for this Kai'Sa to go into that more poke-oriented build, because those missile barrages coming out from Corki, if you combo those up with the Void Seekers as well, you've got a lot of engage drafted for Bluebirds. We've mentioned that already, but if you're getting hit from sort of 2,000 range, I think there are very, very few champions that can actually capitalize on that possibility.
Now, Ornn is one of them. You know, there are very few. Fortunately for Bluebirds, they've taken one in game number 1. The Ornn is certainly a champion that if you see somebody a little bit isolated, and even if they are a few thousand units away, you can potentially pull the Forge God, chase them down with Silas movement speed, or with Hecarim movement speed rather, that can fairly easily come through and, you know, pick somebody up if they are, as I mentioned, a little bit picked out of place. Now, of course, we'll have to wait and see whether or not we get to a point where the Ornn range becomes particularly relevant, or if we're going to just get to see some absolute deathball 5v5s. Because either way, what we can tell from these two teams having made it to the final is that they're going to know how to fight here. They've battled across anybody else that has stood before them in the bracket. Those team fights should be very well polished.
And they should be explosive as well, because I feel like these are both compositions that are really able to capitalize on any small pick that is generated and snowball that into an easy first killer fight, and then all of a sudden playing out the remainder of those engages is going to be a lot easier for you.
Yeah, and I think that if you can, you know, find those early leads and start to snowball, that at present it seems to be the leading way of just, you know, winning a game of League of Legends. Shockingly, we don't tend to see too many comebacks and those long drawn out 30-40 minute games that have been a little bit of old potentially when Waithclear was a little bit more powerful, what have you. We have got this very snowball oriented meta at the minute, and I'm liking to see the tools that are on both sides. So we're looking at the Hecarim to start off with. For Bluebirds, want to see what Henry Clay can put down as well. They've got a few tools of their own once they hit that level 6 marker, but early on they could well have to stay a little bit safe, a little bit more cautious through the early phases.
And sort of coming to that early game, I want to get your brief thoughts on how we feel like these lane matchups are going to go, right? We kind of briefly touched on the Ornn Malphite. I don't think either of us are expecting that to be too high impact, but I really want to focus on this Misfortune Leona versus the Kai'Sa Nami, because we kind of alluded that Kai'Sa, not maybe the strongest early game champion, doesn't really pair up with the Nami too well, whereas the Misfortune and Leona is a pretty classic combo.
Yeah, because you've got the Make It Rain that you can layer on top, so once you've been hit by all of the CC of the Leona, you're still stuck in a slow field, and for the likes of a Kai'Sa who's got, at best, a supercharged flash to get out, at worst case, just a supercharged and potentially no E at all, getting out of all of that CC and not taking exit damage can be very difficult, as well as if you're trading in a minion wave. Kai'Sa in a laning phase has to be very particular about when she takes these trades, because the Akathian Rain, her Q, is a large portion of her damage, and if it's spreading between up to 6 minions, you're only getting really 2 out of the prop once you get it fully upgraded onto that single champion or onto whichever champion you tend to be focusing, which is a lot less in than when you get it in isolation. So those early trades, as you mentioned, certainly difficult.
Yeah, when you land that Akathian Rain onto like a full minion wave where all the minions are on like 20 HP and you kill all of them, that's great. But if all of those projectiles are hitting onto a minion wave when you're trying to trade, that's going to feel less good. And now the last matchup that I really want to focus on is the mid-jungle 2v2. We see this be very impactful oftentimes. So the Hecarim and the Sylas versus the Amumu and the Corki. My initial thoughts on this, Rude Dude, is that Amumu Corki, not really champions that are known for their early game strength.
No, you're quite right, but Sylas does take a couple of levels at the very least to start to dial up. So about level 3, level 4, Sylas starts to come online and start to be able to trade effectively with the Corki, if you know you can find that chain and start to close the gap with the stun. But if we're seeing some really early invades, if we see some really early action, the Amumu getting level 3 tries to make a move into the topside jungle potentially and catch out a Hecarim, because it's not unlike a Hecarim to not take E at level 3. If they go for a full clear, it's very frequent that you'll see 2 points into Rampage and nothing in Devastating Charge, which means that there's not too many escape potential, and it's going to be a lot more difficult. So there is that small window of time where I do favour a little bit of what Henry Clay Blue can go for, but you're quite right that by and large, as we go through this early game and through into the mid game as well, I'm expecting the Hecarim Sylas duo to do a lot more than the Amumu Corki, because the sort of skirmishing power that a Sylas brings, if you steal away that Curse of the Sad Mummy as well, it's going to be very potent.
Yeah, it can be quite destructive. Small thing to mention, though, is that we do have the double bandage toss on the Amumu. That was a change that was implemented quite a while ago, but we don't really tend to see Amumu in a lot of these sort of competitive streamed games. So that could be a way that Deandra Jarvan is actually going to be able to be a bit more effective in the early game than he otherwise would be.
And hopefully we get to see those bandage tosses fully expended. I want to quickly touch back on that top lane matchup that you hit on middle cut, right? Because we talked about that this isn't going to be the place of all the action. But when you have these two tanky top laners up against one another, this does breed a little bit of an opportunity for the junglers to just go and have a 7th camp, because you've got a lot of CC, and if you're giving the kill over to the jungler as well, a Hecarim in particular is going to look getting those extra resources. You can even give over the wave, you can give over a plate or two as well. There's certainly a world where Hecarim in particular in this game is going to have a lot of value to going to the top lane if you can catch out the Malphite pre-level 6.
Yeah, but obviously once he gets access to that unstoppable force at level 6, becomes a lot harder to lock down the Malphite, and he becomes a lot more concerned with actually charging towards you as fast as possible and knocking you up. Getting CC can cover that up with the Amumu as well, and then if you've got a Corki package on top, then that's a lot of wombo combo potential. But we're going to have to hold that for now, because we are heading on to the Rift for the first game in this series.
Okay, so let's look at these early level ones, see if there's anything untoward. And it looks like Middlecott at the very beginning here, we could well be seeing at least a stack. I'm not going to say there's an invade just yet, but a stack at the start.
Bluebirds potentially anticipating an invade coming through from Henry Clay Blue. But as it stands in this game one, neither team wanting to overstep just yet. Neither team wanting to make that mistake that would put them at a disadvantage in this all-important final.
So it looks like nothing to come. 5-point spread from Henry Clay. They're going to be quite happy. Just make sure that everything is above board and accurate. Quick chance to look down our rune choices for everybody. Nothing too untoward right now. We have got the Ignite coming through in the mid lane for Vegan. Phase Rush for Morgano as well. We've seen things like the Conqueror. We have seen TP as well for Sylas in the mid lane. So just a few nuanced choices. Neither of these two are bad. I want to iterate that, you know, these two, whilst they're not 100% defined in the meta, that they're not bad either, and certainly have their point and place in this game.
Both junglers going to be starting now on the bottom sides of the map, so that top lane that you mentioned could potentially be a 7th camp for these junglers, maybe going to be cleared earlier than they will expect. We'll have to keep an eye on that for the time being. Vegan on this Silas, melee champion, are we going to be looking at a potentially rough time for him in the early levels up against the Corky Poke?
Yeah, like I said in the drafting phase, Deuce pre-level 4 or 5, I'd say, is going to have a pretty good run of things up against Vegan. Post that, you do start to have the sustain to come through. You've got a little bit of extra health that can happen, and if you hit 2 first, you might go pretty well as well.
And go for these short trades with the passive. Not able to connect with that chain lash, which would have stunned up Deuce, but still finding advantages in that early game. Level 2 going to be hit for Greed and Oxidide here. Flash is going to be burnt, but the Zenith Blades going wide. On my screen, that looked like it connected, but Eli gets away with just a flash blown.
Yeah, and Piggles as well. I want to give credit. Just the most subtle sidestep that you will ever see onto a Leona Flash Zenith Blade right there. Goes, oh, I'll just quickly drop out, and then keeps on moving back to safety. So a very well executed disengage on the bot side from Henry Clay Blue, but has to be mentioned that with every good disengage, there's that fluffed engage, but Oxide still able to find the timing, and we're expecting this from Greed and Oxide on this bot side. They are to be pushing in this wave, finding advantages, starting to get those CS leads for the first 5 to 10 minutes without too much jungle intervention, if that's the case.
And Eli and Sir Piggles, as long as they're not dying, as long as they're staying relevant in terms of the CS department, I think they're going to be fine because they're not playing for the lane, they're playing for skirmishes a little bit later on. Eli taking a fair chunk of damage, and Oxide actually diving under the tower. Ignite is dropped down onto the Kaiser, and that is a first blood traded back as Sir Piggles picks up the other.
Well, this is still very worth it here if you are Greed. He gets the kill, he gets the wave pushed on in, and he's going to be able to get a lot of experience from this as well. Sir Piggles, whilst he's here in support of Eli, not able to keep that one alive. And we get to see the replay as well. The damage from Greed's double up was actually insane. And then look at all 5 of those minions as they worm their way under the turret. You can just feel the pain of an AD carry as the minions just die to the turret.
And Rudu, we said that this Kaiser, this Nami, as long as they're not dying in the lane and they're only going down a few CS, they're going to be absolutely fine. That's not fine in my book.
They're only gone and done it. They're only gone and died. They did the thing they weren't supposed to do, unfortunately. But there's still time, right? This is a composition that is going to scale very well into the late game. I do want to quickly just address a slight concern that I have about their composition, and it is that the magic damage, it's fairly abundant. We're looking at physical damage, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank here, dependent on what the build path from Eli is going to be. Hoping now that with all the magic damage built up, that we do see something like a Kraken Slayer, Gale Force type build, and not the tier to build into a load of poke style items, because otherwise Roscoe on that top side is going to have an absolute field day. You pick up that Force of Nature, opt into even just a Spirit Visage, right, as that second item. You get your Mythic, you get something else on top of that, Mercury Treads as well. The game does write itself if you're a tank and everybody is 1 damage profile.
Yeah, it's difficult to kill an Ornn at the best of times, but when he doesn't have to worry about itemizing one of the resistances, that becomes even harder. Roscoe has actually been having a fair time of it up in the top lane here versus CDR. Wolf was able to chunk them out fairly significantly at the early game, but those cheese wheels are really starting to hurt from the Malphite now, and they may be looking for a solo kill here. Roscoe forced a Searing Charge away as they are dropped so low, but the Corrupting Potion is not going to be enough to take them out.
Oh, and just the slightest of miscalculations. All credit to Wolf for that, because that was a very good effort. Just not quite able to find the final damage, those final little slithers of HP to go down. Now Roscoe gets to teleport back up to the top lane and saved Flash as well, so has that Flash advantage over Wolf, who is going to have to take that. Not even a walk of shame, honestly. Very valiant effort, but take the laning phase now with no Flash.
The Andrew Draven now thinking about ganking onto the mid lane has been spotted out by a ward, so Vegan will know that the enemy jungler is here, and you see that just cheating towards the top side, understanding that you don't want to gank a lane if you've not got vision of where the enemy jungler is. Morgano could have been hiding in that top pixel rush, and Deandra would have had no idea, so just takes the safe way out and is going to path back towards their own Raptors. Morgana has been spotted out there, but I don't think Deuce is reacting quite in time.
This is a really interesting point. This is that little niche area around the mid-jungle 2v2 where your mid lane is level 6, your junglers are not. And at this point, that heavily favours Vegan, heavily favours the Silas, who can steal away an Amumu, especially when the Amumu doesn't have their own ult to fight back with.
Oh, top lane. Roscoe's going for an all-in. Ooh. Wolf just getting away with the unstoppable force. If that CC chain had been a little bit better, we're seeing a kill in the top lane.
Yeah, and it is coming down to these fine margins here of, you know, a little bit of damage, a little bit of a mistimed ultimate. On this top lane, the one that we expected to be fairly quiet, fairly timid, it's the closest we've come to those solo kills without actually having found one.
Now, Deandra is thinking about this, but I'm not sure if you want to go for a gank onto Roscoe right now. Only level 5 on that Amumu, no access to the Curse of the Sad Mummy. Does have that Conqueror, so is a little bit more favoured in extended fights up against the tanks, but is just going to take a reset and pick up some more items.
Makes sense. Certainly quite happy with that one. Okay.
Well, apparently.
Instead.
As soon as Deandra went back, we had action going on. We got action in the bot lane. That combo, that engage! That's a death for Sir Piggles, as Greed is going to take that one with glee.
There we go. We've got Sushi tonight, everybody. We've got the Nami gone down. Sir Piggles back to the fountain. As Greed and Oxide, they will be eating good for this wave or two. Got Morgano as well, just on the edge of your screen. There was an opportunity to go for this dive. I think that when the next wave crashes in, they may well look for it as well. Andre Jarvan is nearby, is sat ready and waiting for this dive to come through. And even if it is just to protect your AD carry, protect this guy to make sure that she collects the farm, that presence is more than worthwhile.
I feel like Bluebirds could have looked for a potential engage onto Deandra, though, but deciding against it. 8.5 minutes into the game, we have got a fairly significant lead being built up by the blue side team. 2K in the advantage, 3 kills to 1. Obviously, Henry Clay have got more than enough time to come back into this, but when you are getting natural advantages in your lanes, it always feels good. Roscoe now continuing to take these extended trades up against Wolf, and whenever we pan to the top lane, feels like it's the Malphite winning it out, but when we pan away, Orange just solo kills him.
Now, both of these champions have got their ultimates within a couple of seconds, so expect those to be used.
And there it goes. The Forge God has been called. Morgana's into the top lane as well. Wolf is going to actually turn around the engage, but it's not quite enough as Roscoe takes him out.
Again, really well timed. Roscoe uses the Bellows Breath to immune the knockup, means that he can find that trade kill, pump out just a little bit more damage in return, and take down this Malphite. Now we get to see DeAndre Jarvan potentially look for something himself.
And not
Did you
quite
get
able
4
to
kills to
find
1?
it. Yeah, and we've seen Deandra do this a couple of times. Has sort of wandered into these lanes, but has not quite been in a position to find the ganks, to really find those advantages. And that's not what you want to be doing on this Amumu, is hit that level 6 mark. Level 7 now has access to the Curse of the Sad Mummy. We need to see that going down pretty soon.
And when you hit that level 6, it's almost a Nocturne effect, right? Of if that first ultimate hits and has an impact and you get a kill, you feel so very good. But the second that you use that ult and nothing has happened and you don't get that kill.
Ooh, Solar Flare going wide. Oxide throwing the Xenoblade into Narnia. And Eli's going to be very happy with that.
Yeah, a little bit like that. When you don't find the engage, when you don't find those utilizations of cooldowns, you just feel a little awkward.
Oh, Roscoe has already burned a couple of cooldowns here in the top side. Wolf doesn't have the ultimate, but the bandage toss does connect. Deandra may not even use the Curse of the Sad Mummy as the second bandage toss comes through, and they pick up their first takedown, a shutdown on the Bluebirds top laner.
Very nice, as Wolf is going to be able to now collect some plates with Demolish. This could be 2. Nice to see on the bot side, though, that Morgano is recognizing he's got A, priority in the mid lane, and B, a jungler in the top side, so he's going to take that opportunity. And we'll take the dragon, thank you very much. We'll start the ball on this a little bit, but it looks as though one blue ward may well have been enough to scare them away.
Yeah, they've been spotted, they've been scared away, and if we pan back up here, Deandra taking out that Herald, so a sequence of good plays actually for Henry Clay when they were in a little bit of that early deficit. If you get this Herald down, get a couple of plates out with it, that gold is evening right back up.
So where does this Herald get used? With a couple of plates left on this top lane, it looks as though DeAndre Jarvan is at the very least looking to place it down. So it will be taken as well. Question is, going to get Roscoe? Don't think so. Wouldn't imagine. Second time, but no support from any of the team. It's worth knowing.
Yeah, so taking those tower shots not going to be the worst thing in the world. Actually may go for it. Force to use that unstoppable force to actually get a disengage. And Shelly taking her sweet time, but will eventually get the charge off onto the Herald. And that's going to be first tower for Henry Clay Blue. And DeAndre Jarvan continuing the engage, but Vegan is here. Steals the ult, gets a double knock up. That's a perfect play as 2 flashes are used in response. I think DeAndre Jarvan is not long for this world, but Wolf is able to get away. One more chain, and Vegan slays them down in the river. Morgana's going to take out the rock as well.
Really well played. Nice collapse here, and they get themselves 2 kills in exchange for that turret having gone down. Now they'll be able to collect a load of plates up on their top side.
That solar flare connects, that zenith blaze land, and that is the bullet time as well. But the knock up onto the tower means Oxidide taken to single digit HP, the killer instinct, and that was beautiful from Eli.
Okay, so turned it around. Sir Piggles here using those disengage tools very well. Means that the Kai'Sa now able to get a kill up on the board. And so we've got that scoreboard.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Eli, one more auto Greege with the solo kill.
Just as I was about to give credit, this Kai'Sa build is exactly what you need. And they've played this laning phase out largely to a T. They got that solo kill in a 2v2 a couple minutes in. But after that, they played it very safe. They were staying alive and they'd even turned that kill around. Fortunately, 2 slight lapses overall could well spell disaster for Eli.
And now Bluebirds are going to use the pressure that they generated in this bot lane with those couple of pickups to slay down the Hex Tech Drake. 30 minutes, pretty late on the board, so Soul is not going to be a concern for either of these teams for a little while, although that Mountain Drake in 5 minutes definitely will be.
Yeah, and you know, this will be about the point when you have even numbers where we expect to see these teamfight compositions really start to come to blows. You've got Kai'Sa on one side looking potentially poke out a little bit, potentially teamfight very well with the when you've got this Kai'Sa build, and then you've also just got Misfortune, Hecarim, and this the Aunt as well in the top side. So a lot of potential to get to see this dive once again. It's just beautifully executed. Solar Flare connects, get a stun to follow up, and you think that, oh well, at this point you've gone a little bit too far. Really good disengages from Sir Piggles, knocks up the Misfortune with the ulti. Bubble as well stops the owner under the turret. It does end up resulting in a kill, so overall a very good effort.
Very good effort, but then obviously that slight overstep from Eli in the lane gets himself caught out and ends up going down for the second time this game. We got some CS numbers on the board, Rudude, and they are going to be very good reading for Bluebirds fans because Greege in this bot lane, not only has he 3 takedowns to the good, but is also 50 CS up.
I would say that that's a fairly sizable difference between our 2 AD carries in this game, and in a game that is only 1.2 thousand gold different, it really goes to show you that there is still a very real possibility that this game goes either way. If there's only 1.2 thousand gold different in your ADCs and the game looks this different, it means that the enemy team has a lead elsewhere.
Yeah, and looking at that lead, it appears to be DeAndre Jarvan in that jungle. Hold that thought as Wolf is being engaged onto Morgana. Not quite getting them back with the charge. The Unstoppable Force goes over the wall, followed with the onslaught of Shadows, and that's one dead rock.
Well, for every throw there is a catch, and it feels like HCB unfortunately just throwing a little bit too many for the Bluebirds to catch and collect, and all credit to them, they have been doing so. They've picked up on these slight mistakes, these slight missteps very easily, started to take kills for themselves.
And I love this. Every time DeAndre Jarvan feels like they want to go for a gank, there's a ward there. There's some sort of vision from the Bluebirds spotting the mat, and that means that this Amumu, whilst it's in a pretty significant gold advantage over the Hecarim, hasn't been able to find the plays that they would have wanted to.
Now the top lane teleport comes through with a dragon spawning in a little over a couple of minutes. Tends to suggest that you're not going to be fighting for that Drake, or that you will be able to push in the wave very easily and then force the teleport through from Roscoe to allow for that timing to come through. Of course, all pure speculation right now. You can see that there's a few people getting ready, making sure that they're open and available for what could be a very good time.
could be a very good time. I'm having a great time right now. Grecian Oxide might not be having a great time as Deandra Jarvin and co are on the way, but they are gonna back out of the play. Fearful of this Misfortune and Leona that have just been wrecking face so far in the early game. Morgano looking for an engage on to-dos potentially, but with that Valkyrie away, the Corki remains alive.
Okay, so first brick also falling. Up in the top lane, surprisingly, it's Wolf that's able to come away with that, despite the really rough early game that they've gone through. Currently got the first brick, seemingly, out of nowhere, but that swap now coming on down, the Malphite making his way toward the Drake pit. 4 minute 30 still left on that. Gives Roscoe a lot of free time to this turret if they want it, but it looks like for the moment, Demolish proc and back. Not going to overcommit too hard.
Yeah, I think they're recognising that this mounted Drake would be pretty good for an Ornn. Those bonus resistances are definitely not something to be sniffed at, and doesn't want to expend the TP to get down to the pit. So I imagine, yeah, we see on the minimap Roscoe pathing a bit more towards the mid side, probably going to cheat down towards that Drake when it does spawn in a minute's time. And it's going to be a pretty good time for Bluebirds because they've got this bot lane tower taken out as well, which means that Eli and Sir Piggles are having to CS a little bit further back. Instead, we are seeing the team on the blue side opt into this Herald instead.
Yeah, and that was the more pressing objective, I suppose, with Drake not spawning for 40 seconds. Rift Herald is, live, and you have the opportunity. No reason not to go and take it down. Now Wolf has spotted it. No real response ready for the team, so I imagine this one goes over quite easily, and we'll see some sort of scrap around that dragon.
Yeah, we're sort of seeing like a five-person rotation coming through here. Picked up that Rift Herald. They're probably going to shut that down in the mid lane. Once this tower is gone, they're going to rotate down towards the Drake. But Henry Clay are going to be waiting for them. Bubble goes a little bit wide as Deandra Jarvin gets two people with the ultimate into the combo. There goes the package as well. That's the engage that they were looking for. It's one takedown so far for Henry Clay, but it's starting to get turned around. The Corgi has been taken out, but it's already a double kill for the Amumu, who gets even more. The Wombo combo is working beautifully, and that's an ace.
Oh, just in the nick of time here. A really good team fight comes through. And with that, they're not just going to be settling for this Drake middle cot. They want some turrets as well, expanding on all of the possible outcomes that they could get. Henry Clay Blue, they started out with a small smattering of an engage onto two people, but they're able to find the dragon, and now push for that mid-tier one.
That was such a ridiculous engage, and it was just as Bluebirds were starting to sort of get in the ascendancy, was starting to get that gold a little bit more in their advantage. Well, hold your horses, because Henry Clay, now they're the ones 1.5k in the advantage, and they're the ones with the Drake in their back pocket.
Yeah, and it's just really good vision play from DeAndre here. Makes his way in, double stun comes through, double knock up from the Unstoppable Force as well, and unfortunately that Misfortune never got to play with the Legends. Ekram gets taken down slowly after, and at this point, from the top side to the bottom side, it is a complete wipe here. One member falls, but it does not matter. It is of little consequence. Be able to find, like we said, Drake five plates, not even just the full turret in the mid lane, excuse me, and a load of kills as well.
And we've got to give a special shout out to Sir Piggles as well. 3 people hit with the tsunami wave as well from the Nami. That Imperial Mandate means that that's going to be contributing some bonus damage to the play as well. And it puts us in a pretty strange position, because we were talking about how Henry Clay, they've sort of got a bit more scaling on their side. These lanes don't necessarily win as hard early on, but at the 20-minute mark, they are sitting pretty. And once these objectives, like the Barons, start to be a bit more relevant, and maybe Soul in sort of 10, 15 minutes time start to be more relevant, they're in a much better place now than they were 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and if they can obviously start to keep those objectives rolling in, potentially find another couple of kills. They are up, in fact, in gold despite being down in those kills. So, as you mentioned, all credit does have to go to them, because that's not an easy task, right? You get even more kills and you're not the ones at the head in gold. Something that maybe not hasn't gone right, but something that needs adjusting at the very least.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to look at a player to sort of give a shout out to on Henry Clay, I think Deandra Jarvin has to be. That ultimate was massive to kick off that fight, and whilst their early ganks maybe weren't as successful as they would have liked them to be, hey, currently sat 3-1-3, 20 CS up on Morgano, 2 items completed. This is a scary sad mummy.
Incredibly so, especially with the microwave build that we see come through the Sunfire Aegis plus Demonic Embrace. Actually deceptively tanky plus damage focused from the Amumu. Deals a lot of damage to champions with large maximum HP, so going to be very good versus the Malphite. Everybody else a little bit less efficient, but overall that's still very, very nice.
And then Deuce as well, completing that Mirror Mana with the Ludens too. We're really starting to get a bit closer to these item spikes, which are so important. Vegans also picked up the Zhonyas for themselves. So we're really starting to get online with a lot of these champions. And what we need to be looking out for before these fights is where exactly the itemization lies. Because when the gold lead is in this sort of like 1k, 2k sort of territory, you can have teams that have got a lot of gold in their pocket, but unless you've spent that on items, it's not really doing anything for you.
Yeah, it's just spending a hole weighing you down, essentially. It's a really easy metaphor to come by, is that if you've got a lot of gold in your pockets, it means it's not spent on useful items, and it is going to be weighing you down. As such, I want to make sure that everybody is spending their gold pretty much at the opportune moments. Speaking of spending gold, always got to check in on what they're spending it on. Happy to see Eli has opted into this hardcore AD style of build. Was kind of touching on it earlier, but we did get a fight. We've got the Kraken Slayer. We're opting into a Lord Dominic's Regard second, which against this team is going to have, again, a lot of value at maximum percent HP. Going to do very well versus probably 4 out of 5 members here.
Yeah. I was going to say Silas, Hecarim, Ornn, Leona, all these champions are going to have more, sort of a bit more HP than you. And obviously when you can activate that that Lord Dominic's Regard, that bonus damage against higher HP targets, it's going to help you with that tank shredding that we highlighted that maybe KHSAA isn't particularly good at.
Got ourselves 45 seconds on the next dragon. 1-1 our teams right now. Nothing to separate the two of them, at least in that Drake regard. And we were talking about the fact that both of these teams have their team fight aspects here. If you are HCB, you're going to be looking to find a little bit of initial poke. Let Deuce do a bit of the damage early on with the the Ludens completed. Plus that Mirror Mana fully upgraded. You even got a Blighting Jewel in there. That's a lot of damage ready to go upon the hit of that third big rocket.
And you can see them waiting in the base, just waiting for that package to become available. Such a useful tool in these fights. The TP coming through, and that is going to be accompanied by a package as well. Has a minute to use that, and with Drake already on the board, I'm sure they're going to be getting ample opportunity. Deandra Jarvan fishing, gets the ultimate onto 2 people, followed up with the tsunami as well. That's the wombo, but it's turned around! That's beautiful, 2 already taken out by the Bluebirds, and can Henry Clay play out the rest of the fight? Deandra Jarvan somehow still alive, the Conqueror dealing so much damage! A double kill for the Amumu. Vegan is getting microwave, Roscoe's taken out, triple kill. How have Henry Clay turned that around?
Once again, the team fight goes their way. It's DeAndre Jarvan starting the fight, finishes the fight as well. Triple kill for an Amumu. Little Cot came out absolutely swinging in that fight and took down his enemies. Bluebird didn't have the answer, and they need to try and find it right now because it's clearly not in the composition that they've picked up themselves, or certainly not in the way that they've been playing it out. Maybe they need to be a little bit more proactive here. I'm feeling like if you're the ones that start this fight, you're the ones that tended to be coming out on top. This is the start of the play with the TP coming through, and there was a lot of poke going down here at this point. It's worth mentioning, there were a lot of those skill shots thrown over walls, a lot of tricky movement.
Watch Vegan. Watch this ult from Vegan after. DeAndre Jarvan goes in, and then watch how Vegan turns this around. So much damage. And they take 2 out instantly, but somehow they end up losing the fight.
It's a mystery for the ages, Middle Cart. It's one for greater generations than ours to figure out. It looks like Deuce is just pummeling rockets in left, right, and center, and then obviously Andre Jarvan doing a very good job as well. We'd be cruel not to mention it. What a triple kill to Mumu. Hey, that's the sort of thing that haunts my nightmares.
Hey, that's pretty good. And you know what? We've got even more of that damage with the Thornmail coming through as well, applying that Grievous Runes. But also when you're hitting onto that Amumu, you're going to be taking a little bit of punishment back yourselves. And Bluebirds, they've lost a couple of these team fights in a row. It feels like they need to find alternate ways of approaching, alternate angles if they want to come out on top. Maybe this is one that they can get. As Vegan gets a 3-man stolen ultimate, but it gets turned back around. 3 with the bubble from St. Pickles. That was ridiculous. this? How do you keep doing this, HCB? How do you keep turning these fights that look unwinnable? It's another double kill for the Amumu. Greege is running away, slowed up, chased down, taken out. Beautiful stuff from Henry Clay.
Oh, once again, just a well-executed team fight. Now they have 4 members left alive. Baron potentially on the board for them. Roscoe, the only one left alive to try and do something about it. Looks like they're going to give it on up, head toward the Drake. Oh, head toward the mid lane, excuse me, and potentially toward the Drake in a couple of minutes' time. But for right now, they don't really have anything to be doing as the Baron goes over, and HCV find themselves the first big objective of this game.
Yeah, this is the first decisive advantage, but it was Bluebird starting off the fight. It looks so good for them, but it gets turned around once again.
Heal and Flash, a beautiful summon spells here, and another amazing bubble. Sir Piggles is actually playing incredibly well on this Nami. Finds, I believe, 3 people there with that one to slow their roll and ultimately force the rest of the team to stay alive and take them down with her.
Beautifully played out, and now Henry Clay, they feel like they've got a firm advantage now in this first game. Reminder, we are in a best of 3 in these finals. If Henry Clay are able to claim the W in this first game, Bluebirds are definitely not out, but they are in a position that they would not wanted to have been at the start of this series. And we saw the gold briefly on our screens there. Over 12,000 for Deandra Jarvin, the most gold in the game.
And by a fair little bit as well. Certainly doing a very good job at making the moves. So honestly, we've got the Baron though having gone over, and that means that it is time to siege middle cop. We've got ourselves 1 poke champion, 1 AD champion with a couple tanks out in front. Let's see who can step up, and whether or not they're allowed to start wailing away on this turret.
Yeah, and I believe the term that you like for this Baron is the economy Baron. This is the Baron that is going to get you some of these outer structures, going to get you a bit more of a gold lead, but not necessarily one that is going to win you the game.
You know, I can be a little bit partial to that style. Duke's currently able to take out that bot lane tier 2 with very little resistance, honestly. You can see the HP bar completely fine. Just getting a bit of target practice in on those minions. Nothing to see here down in the bot lane. As Greege is the one that's left to deal with this minion wave, and now the rest of the team are able to just push in through the mid lane. Textbook play so far.
And I mean, Greege is far from underpowered right now on this Misfortune. 3 items completed, including that Syzygy, the upgraded Eclipse from the Ornn. So if they're able to find a big wombo combo with their ultimate, then surely that's going to be great for them. But even when Bluebirds have had great engages like these, they seem to get turned around. Less likely this time, as that's just a little bit of an overstep from Deuce.
Yeah, and whenever you're, I'll say ADCs, just because Corky technically still a marksman. Never mind.
Darkside fishing with that Solar Flipper, not able to find the engage. Does get that Zenith Blade into the CC combo onto Eli. 2 picks in a row for the Bluebirds. Maybe they're thinking about this Drake now.
Yeah, and I think that with the timer on it, we're within 15 seconds now. This could not have been any better. They find 2 picks. Unfortunately, Holly just extending a little bit too far forward. And she does get punished. Taken out and no longer allowed down as the Drake does fall. A nice little advantage now over to BB.
Picking up that that objective bounty, funneling a bit more gold into your pockets. You're still down a fair amount though, really, dude. Over 7,000 gold, but not going down without a fight, and we saw that here.
And this is what you kind of need to do when you're behind it. It's just take really any fight that you can find and make it work, essentially. And I mean, talk about making it work. I don't think Eli ever got to move.
Yeah, and not moving is not a great path to success if you are an AD carry. If you're a Maokai or a tank sat there soaking up all that CC, you feel just fine. But Kaisa very, very squishy, and if she's not able to get that killer instinct ultimate off, one of the most vulnerable AD carries in the game. I'm not sure that Henry Clay are going to be too despondent, though. They're still in the advantage, even though they had a little bit of a slip up. But a couple more of those, and Bluebirds could take this first game.
It's certainly within the realms of possibility. Never say never to pretty much anything. There's always an opportunity for these things to come back and surprise us. But for right now, Middlecod, it has turned into fairly career lanes, I want to say. We're kind of boring right now. We're just pushing waves in. letting them ping pong, and we'll get back to them when they arrive.
Yeah, well, we'll wait a little bit. Baron spawning in a minute and a 30, and if I'm Henry Clay, I don't feel like I need to do anything before that timer gets on the board. Maybe get a fight before that Baron, then take it, and then try and force through into the base a little bit more. But as it stands right now, you don't want to be overstepping. You don't want to be giving any of those free picks over to this Bluebird side, which is still scaling up themselves.
Yeah, you know, we've touched on the scaling aspect on one side. I think that it is important to remember that the BB do have good scaling as well. The Misfortune ult, we've all seen Misfortune ultis in various highlight montages of people just not respecting a late game Misfortune and then getting torn to shreds. So there's always that world to happen. And I think that's something certainly to look forward to as well, not just for today and for tonight, but for the future.
Yeah, and again with the sort of ornaments, the upgraded items that are going to come through, extra gold value for Bluebirds. So every time you see one of those little marks on the corner of an item, you can pretty much just knock 1,000 off that gold deficit, and that's going to be really useful in helping you secure these fights that you are looking for. Baron is up in 25 seconds. Neither team really positioning too aggressively towards it, although saying that, Bluebirds are now moving into the top river.
He has got a blast cone plus unstoppable force plus flash. Surely this is a getaway.
Plus ratio.
There's a little bit. A little bit of the ratio.
Malphite does have some pretty good ratios, and we've already seen Vegan exploit those in one fight. Wasn't able to end up securing the dub for their team. But one of the things that Silas has changed about them recently is that the ultimate cooldown that they've got, that hijack, that ability to take away some power from the enemy, has actually been lowered quite substantially at later ranks. So we'll have to see if they're able to get multiple different ultimates off in one of these later stage team fights once they tick to that level 16.
Still waiting for those 16s on a couple of members to come through. Really weird leveling distribution, honestly, must be said. Deuce and DeAndre Jarvan, level 17 right now, up against the mid-jungle duo of BB, who's 14 and 15 alike. So if those two come to blows, then that could be very disastrous. Base levels, base gold that comes from said levels, certainly very palpable, about 500 per level at present. He's currently only 500 gold behind now.
Yeah. That's those bonus stats really do add up, and it's one of the sort of like the hidden power elements of League of Legends. I guess you really don't notice it until you feel it hitting your health bar, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And when there's three Infernal, or when there's three, take Infernal for example, when there's three Infernals, right? That's a lot of damage coming through. The same thing can be said this game for when there's three Cloud Drakes that come through. It's going to be an incredibly quick team, just regardless of whether or not they get the soul. So certainly something to keep your eyes on. And when the players start to focus their attention back down toward that Drake, you can start to see who's coming away with it. Because right now, we've got the Baron up and available, but nobody's showing too many moves. Nobody's particularly interested.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risky proposition just because of the power that Objective holds. I guess if you lose a fight around the Baron, you can very, very quickly find yourself in a game state which is not particularly enjoyable to be a part of. Another ornament thrown down as we're seeing Bluebirds moving into this bottom river. Once again, Deuce is in the base. Once again, they have the package. And once again, they are going to have the option to TP in. Going straight into the pit this time, so a little bit of a riskier maneuver as there comes the bullet time. Poke damage onto DeAndre Jarvan, but not too much, actually. Roscoe missing with the ultimate, but that one definitely hits there as back over the wall goes Wolf, trying to take down as many carries as he can, and Deuce is diving into the backline as well. It's 2 kills picked up for HCB. And they're looking to grab even more. Deuce still alive, flashes back away from Oxide into the pit. A double fill for the Corki. An ace secured for HCB. They could look for the base or they could look for the Baron.
Oh, and it's another good fight. They seem to be consistently finding the engages. You have to give them credit where it's due, saving unstoppable force for the right targets and blowing them up straight after. Baron is going to be the prize. They could have maybe gone for a little bit more, but it does not matter. Very good job overall. Leads them to the Baron and one step closer now to completing that comeback and putting the team rather right back on top in this game and ahead in the series. This is I don't even want to call this an engage. It was more of a face check. Comes to Piggles, and then all of a sudden Bullet Time says, okay, well, I guess we're fighting now. All the Forge God not synced up. Onslaught of Shadows goes into a different direction, and then all of a sudden this is how you do it.
Yeah. Wombo combo into the pit. Deuce with an absolutely massive package there. DeAndre Jarvin flashing over the wall. Absolutely not giving a care in the world. Giving a shutdown over to the Misfortune, which is important. That is relevant gold, but the advantage is that HCB have been able to secure off the back of that, picking up the Baron as well. I think you're going to be saying hashtag worth.
You really are. Now, of course, you know, you can always try and figure out a way to spin it the flip side direction of, oh, okay, well, you know, they got 4 for 4, but we got a load of XP, we got ourselves a couple stealaways of gold, of camps more so than anything, so a jungler specifically is still going to be feeling absolutely horrendous about what's going on in the game.
Yeah, it's not feeling good. When you're around about 85 CS down to an Amumu, 3 levels down as well, it's not a great position for a Morgana, for a Hecarim to be up against an Amumu. And HCB, they've got this advantage. It feels like all they need to do now is put themselves down in a lane, and when Bluebirds come and try and defend it, you just go forward and engage.
Just kill them, forehead. That's all it is. It's very easy. I don't know why teams haven't been doing it before, and honestly, they kind of have. We're at 37 kills a minute, or 37 kills. There's 37 minutes. It's 1 kill per minute, Middlecott, not 37. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. That would be a little bit ridiculous. Wolf now trading up with Roscoe in the top lane as the remaining 4 members of Henry Clay Blue pigeoned up in this mid lane, and we're starting to see the poke coming out from Deuce here. 5 items, actually full build on this Corki, so that missile barrage is hitting like a truck.
And I saw one of them that was onto Nan, who's onto someone who honestly just incredibly well versed in tanking, at least here with Leona rather, and I don't know what Roscoe just dashed into there on the top side, but
yeah, not anything too beneficial as the mid lane hit him is going far. Bluebirds recognize that they need to fight. Cooler Forge got onto the Cookie. That's good. He's a big carry if you could take him out, but going into the Zhonya's to buy crucial seconds means that on the other side of the fight, Henry Clay Blue are gonna clean up. There's only 1 left for the Bluebirds, not for much longer. A double kill secured by Wolf, and I think that game 1 is going to be going to Henry Clay.
Yeah, well, they listened to Middlecott just to kill them, forehead. They went in, they turned on the engage that, you know, albeit was successful. They got Deuce. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. There were enough carries to go round, and it was DeAndre Jarvin, honestly, that was, I mean, incredibly well versed at finding the engages, turning fights back around, and put them in a, you know, the position to win the game. Take it 1-0 right now.
Yeah, it was an absolutely stellar performance from them on this Amumu, which we did see having some of those struggles in the early game. And I think Henry Clay, as a whole, struggled a little bit in that early game to really get things going. But as soon as it came to those team fights, they were just cleaning up time after time. We're going to be heading to a short break now, but make sure to stick on the stream to catch game 2 and see whether the Bluebirds are going to be able to tie up this series or whether Henry Clay can claim the final in a 2-0.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Kentucky KHSAA High School League of Legends Varsity Final. It's a mouthful, but I'm going to say it every time. We've got Game 2 upon us after Henry Clay Blue were able to take that first win in this best of 3 series up against the Bluebirds. And Rudude, there is one name on my mind for that game that we need to be focusing on. We need to be talking about. Who is it, mate?
DeAndre Jarvan. Honestly,
Yes.
that was an incredible Amumu performance. It's not very frequent that you'll hear me say that, because sometimes Amumu can be very vanilla, very carbon cut and copy of, hey, this is what you do. If you do it well, it looks good. If not, eh. But that was a case where it really did look good. Like, you were finding those engages, and I think that the most important one for me was the one that turned the tide of the fight. When you were down in the early stages around that dragon, and even if it was just a 2-man engage, it started off the fight. It was the engage that turned the game back around into their favor and ultimately started to get them back to winning the game. And I think that without that engage having come through, there's a very real possibility that we see Bluebirds start to snowball it back in the other direction, and that game could have gone an entirely different course.
Yeah, because we can't ignore that in the early game, Greege and Oxide were really having the run of that bot lane. And aside from a couple of really, honestly, just insane bubbles coming out from Sir Piggles to get some kills back, it was the Misfortune and the owner that had that early shove, that had that early pressure, and looked like they were going to take over the entire game. But it never really felt like Greege was able to get those bullet times off in the big team fights when it really, really matters. So I think that whilst Bluebirds, they did lose that first game, they definitely shouldn't lose heart, because they are still well within the grasp of this series.
Yeah, exactly, because there were those shining points. Got to look at that bot lane for them, with those winning angles, and particularly when we're in a best of 3 series as well, it's not one and done. You do get that chance to go back to the draft, reassess, and think, that Amumu was pretty scary. Maybe we go for something maybe we ban it away, or maybe we opt into something that tends to kill tanks a little bit better, because overall, their compositions are holding scream tank killing. Scream like they've got very good backline access, but when we've got that microwave Amumu who never really takes any damage when the Conqueror's fully stacked as well, you saw right there,
Yeah.
a case in point, what it can do to you.
Yeah, I mean, like, Diz had some good performances, so locking down that backline, definitely a good thing to do in general, but Microwave Amumu just does way too much damage and survived for just long enough in all of those fights that he was able to take out 1, 2, 3 people, and at that point, it's so much easier to play it out if you are on the Henry Clay Blue side. I do briefly want to touch on the top lane as well, because we saw Roscoe actually get a couple of solo kills down onto Wolf, and it felt like maybe that was a place that Bluebirds could have attacked a little bit more in the early game.
And I think that it's somewhere that they may look to attack a little bit more in this game as well. When it's also worth noting that was an Ornn 1, right? Ornn on B1 that they took completely blind. They hadn't got an answer to. And if they opt into something maybe a little bit more aggressive, that's another way for them to find success. Both of the side lanes to the early game certainly went well. We'll have to see whether or not Morgano can start to funnel that, facilitate it a little bit better, and maybe find some more leads for them.
Well, we are into the champion select now, so we'll have to see if any of that adaptation does end up coming through. Bans so far identical to game 1, but there is that Amumu. The Bluebirds don't want to see any more of that.
No, and it makes a lot of sense, honestly. Like, we can't really detract anything from them for getting rid of the Amumu that was an absolute monster during that game. They are going to keep matching, though. They think that the Ornn was fine, and honestly, I largely agree. Roscoe, as we mentioned, got those solo kills. He's always going to be that powerful tank in the front line, and you're never going to hear any complaints about me if the top laner is willing to take an Ornn.
Yeah, we need to watch a little bit more in the team fights, though, for those cooler Forge Guards. I felt like they were only sort of hitting onto 1 or 2 people, and you really want to be getting as many members of the enemy team as you can with that ultimate if you're going to pick up the win. We're kind of running back the champion select so far as HCB locking in that Malphite Kai'Sa combo once again.
We know that at some point something has to change because there's no Amumu. But for right now, hey, let's just keep on going. Why don't
if
we
it ain't broke, if it ain't broke.
Yeah. And I think that Misfortune Leona here makes a lot of sense still. I think that largely the composition for VB last time didn't have, any glaring holes. Well, instead of going for Misfortune Leona and trying to slam laning phase, we've opted into Vayne Victor, and we will raise you your scaling by Oblivion.
Yeah, last game lasted about 39 minutes, I believe, and that is more than enough time for a Vayne and a Victor to well and truly get online. Two of some of the strongest scaling champions in the game in that Vayne. Also a little bit of a counter to the Kaiser. Galio now locked in for Deuce. This is one of the champions that does play a lot alongside with that Corki and is already augmenting your dive threat with this Kaiser and Malphite too.
And I really like this. If they double down, triple down, even more so in the second round of picks on this dive, this Vayne and Victor may never see the light of day, let alone, a chance at getting to a scaled up point. Things like Camille tend to rise when you have a Galio, the stocks on taking Camille, but when you've got Wolf already locked in that top lane, we tend to think that is where the Malphite is going to go. And Camille jungle was a thing for a couple of years or for a couple of patches, but that was a few years ago now at this stage, and probably not something that we're going to see here.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if we see that one pulled out. Another good ban from Bluebirds here, honestly, because we touched on it a little bit of the sort of pre-game when we jump back to in here. But so Pickles had a stellar performance on that Nami that we were maybe questioning a little bit. Some huge bubbles, some massive tidal waves in the team fights, and was really able to stop a lot of what the Bluebirds wanted to do. Instead, this time, they're going to be piloting the owner that Oxide was looking so good on last game.
Okay, now, I'm looking at this composition, and yes, they've got a lot of dive. They don't have a lot of damage just yet. We're relying a lot on Eli to make those damage plays come through. And they don't have a core, hardcore DPS source outside of the Kaiser just yet. Need something fairly threatening from that jungle role, something maybe like a Viego to pop off alongside the Kaiser on that dive. But for BB, they've gone for a nice Lulu to protect this Vayne, and if we do get to that late game stage, we know exactly which bot lane is going to be feeling better about that type of situation. And now what the jungler has to be locked in for BB, they're going in blind into this one, so it is all about comfort. Instead, they opt into another set of frontline. I really like this composition from BB once again. They've got this core frontline of the Ornn and the Zac. They've got a nice set of DPS with the Vayne and the Victor. They've got a Lulu to buff them both up. In general, looks very good.
It looks very good, and it feels very good. When you are the Vayne, the Victor, it's nice to have these sort of like these big guys beside you, and then the little Lulu hyping you up as well, just giving you that extra bit of safety. Cheerleader. That's kind of what all enchanter supports are. They're just there to sort of help out the team, give them a pep talk, make them go as hard as they can. Lilia, though, gonna be locked in for Deandra Jarvin. We have already seen how cracked this player is when they're able to last long in the team fights to get multiple spell rotations off and just do as much damage as they can. Lilia, another one of these champions that can kind of microwave people.
And also can be... I think Lily is very weirdly... She can do deceptively large amounts of damage.
Yes,
Typically, I think of Lilia as very good at taking out tanks and very good at whittling people down. But also, if you sleep this Vayne, you sleep this Victor or this Lulu, and you land that center W, the core center point, you actually just kill them. And that's not an over exaggeration here. You get 900 damage off of those at some point. You get a little bit of true damage from the sleep, and then you have an extra Q in there, for example, just to finish off the job. That's normally enough, and that's assuming that nobody on your team is anywhere nearby to deal any damage either. So there is a very real possibility that when I ask for damage coming from this Lilia, we're gonna get it.
Yeah. But once again, it is HCB kind of going into a bit of the potential double AP style. We did see Eli opt in for that AD Kaiser last game. Is that something that you want to see replies this time around?
Yes, it kind of has to be, unfortunately, because otherwise we are going to fall into that pitfall, as you mentioned, of a lot of magic damage, not particularly any physical damage on the squad. And I mean, if Kaiser doesn't build AD here, that they will have zero, because they're all of the other bruisers. It's not like this is a Scion in the top lane, for example, that dishes out physical damage whilst being a front line. It's a Malphite. It's all magic damage, apart from the W, the wailing auto attacks that.
Do you know what? We're not going to count that.
Exactly. When are you ever going to auto attack a Vayne more than once or twice off of your combo? It's not a viable source of physical damage to talk about in a game of League of Legends. So overall, you need Kaiser to go AD. And Eli last game recognized it. I expect him to recognize it again.
Yeah, it's just smart, just sort of thinking about the game, recognizing what you're going to be up against, what you've got, and adapting on the fly. And we've seen a lot of adaptation come out from Bluebirds. The only pick reprised from their Gain 1 draft. And we're seeing these tanks, we're seeing this Lulu to assist, and I kind of want to hear from you, Rooted, how they want to be playing out these fights.
Well, I think to begin with, the fight. So we'll go to the fights. We'll answer your question. The fights is death ball. The fights is front to back.
Yeah.
And it is have your Ornn and Zac in the front line. Zac engages, Ornn engages, kill the back line very quickly. Or you can honestly just sit in the front line. And I find it very hard to think that a Kai'Sa plus a Lilia really in terms of damage are going to be able to cut through Ornn and Zac faster than a Vayne and a Victor are going to be able to cut through everything when you try and throw at them, right? Of course, there's the caveat that on the flip side, that front line is very subjective this game in particular, because there are a lot of tools from HCB to go, oh, that's cute, that's a nice front line, they're doing all those things over there, we're gonna Malphite ult, Kai'Sa ult, and just pass them and completely ignore them. And then we found your 3 backline carries or your 3 backliners that we needed to kill, and we've just we've killer instincted onto them. We've got the Malphite ult as well, and all of a sudden it didn't matter that you've got this front line because you've done the Uno reverse card or the swapsies of positions, and you've all of a sudden lost the Vayne that was supposed to win you this game.
And Rooted, I'm grimacing a little bit because a lot of what you're talking about, a lot of the way that you're describing that Henry Clay could sort of bypass what Bluebirds have built is giving me flashbacks to Game 1, where we did see sort of Deandra Jarvan go that little bit deeper, go strictly onto these backliners, as kind of ignore the front line to a certain extent, able to take them out, and then able to turn it back around and take out those tanks at the end of the fight.
Yeah, and I recognise that, but my concern is that Lilia doesn't quite do that the same way as an Amumu does, for example, right? You don't have that one button, if this hits, I'm going in type access to the backline. You do have to play a little bit more slowly. You're relying on other members of the team. Now, if, for example, we get to see a Leona performance of the same standards of the, on this Leona, then access to the backline isn't going to be an issue, right? We're expecting a lot of things from Sir Pickles to get that ball rolling and potentially start to find the Victor, find the Vayne, find the Lulu. Whoever you go for in that backline, honestly, they are all valuable targets in their own way. So there's a lot of potential to find engage. It's just on different people, and that's a little more... It's a bit more difficult for me to put my faith in, simply because we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. If we haven't seen it happen, it's a bit more difficult to expect it to happen. We are going to be jumping onto the Rift though for the second game in this series. Henry Clay Blue up 1-0 at the moment. If they can take down Bluebirds in this game, then they are going to claim the championship. They're going to claim this finals victory, but the Bluebirds will not want to go down without a fight. Once again, we're seeing them stacking, running towards this top side, hiding out in a bush, potentially looking for an early pick.
And this time round, their level 1, honestly, pretty atrocious. I'm not going to lie. They've got Lulu for Glitterlance. Victor early levels is maybe one of the worst champions in mid lane. When we talk about mid jungle 2v2s, we tend to avoid Victor like the plague because he scales into oblivion like crazy. He's a very good champion in the late game. Through these early stages, not so much.
Not quite. But once he does get to those late game points, can be very, very dangerous, and something that we should be watching out for as well is if Egan is able to pick up any early assists or early kills, because that Hex Core passive is going to be charged up by getting those kills very, very quickly. I think it's 25 for assisting or taking part in a takedown, and that gives you access to upgraded Death Laser, which is going to augment your wave clear. It's going to upgrade your clue as well, so you can get that extra speed going. Getting the upgrades on those abilities on this Victor is going to be very, very important.
It really is, and I love the rune choice as well from Vegan. This is a very lane-dominant set of runes, and lane-dominant summoner spell as well. And I think that up against a Galio, it's one of the few matchups that you can kind of get away with it. You can use that melee versus range advantage, or range versus melee advantage. You can poke out with those auto attacks. The summon area is going to do a little bit extra to help you out as well. And you can see, steps up to the wave. We've got Scorch as well in those runes.
Ooh,
we're looking for a
tasty
kill, and we're looking to get those Victor books stacking early.
Yeah, we want to get that lane dominance coming through. On the other side, Deuce opting towards the Predator and the TP. So this Galio doesn't care about lane at all. It's all about getting out. It's all about impacting the map and using the incredible power of his kit to get assists and get kills for his team.
It's about getting that first 300 gold and then never going mid lane ever again.
Yeah.
You get the 300 goals, you go back, you get your Predator boots, and then you say, sayonara, sir, I am off.
As Greed and Oxide hitting level 2 first in the bot lane, but Eli getting a pretty potent, isolated Acathian Rain. Better in the trade, still going to the Bluebirds, I feel, and once again, we are seeing these beefy boys in the top lane wailing on each other.
And this time the roles are kind of reversed. I was expecting to see last game Morgano go up to the top side, try and collect on the tanks in the top lane, get the kills through that regard, but now it's DeAndre Jarvan who's got the slightly more carry-oriented jungler, who might look to try and collect in the top side. Now, if we look at our junglers here, you can see that DeAndre is actually a little bit further ahead in terms of the clear, and that could mean that we get to see the Lilia out on the map a little bit sooner than we see the Zac. But by that same regard, Morgano has every opportunity to go, I don't want my Krugs, I will gank now.
Yeah, and that's something that the Zac is just incredible at doing, that elastic slingshot. At the early ranks, it's sort of like 1, 2, 3, not really an insane engage tool, but once you get that sort of like to the level 9 mark and you've got max points in it, you can pretty much engage on people from 2 screens away, and that's very, very difficult to deal with.
It really is, and we're going to see it maybe in this mid lane as level 3 doesn't go all
Charging
that far, but far
up,
enough.
going forward, and Deuce is forced to flash away.
Well, there we go. Like we say, was far enough, and exactly as planned. Morgano skips the Krugs, goes, don't need those, I'm ready to gank now with that level 3, and opts into getting flash in the mid lane. So once again, these resources expended here that will be snowballing the victor ever so slightly. They still have to collect on that, right? This is that type of situation where, never mind, DeAndre's top lane.
Ooh, Roscoe still has access to the flash and will burn it. Deandra Jarvan hitting with a couple of autos to the back of the head, but the Ornn is gonna be just fine. So Pringles and Eli potentially
careful.
caught out here as Greed is going forward with those silver bolts. The Eclipse providing a lot of resistances, but the true damage cutting through that pretty significantly already. Deandra Jarvan sticking around in the top side, but you're not going to find anything there, boss.
Go back to base, man. You tried, you did your best, you got the summoner spell now. The question is, who's going to make use of those rewards gained? We've had 2 jungle ganks, 1 on either side. Morgano got flash in the mid lane. We saw DeAndre Jarvan get flash in the top lane. Morgano may look to go on the spot side. This is the peak timing as well for the gank. The wave isn't going to crest that corner. Morgano, charge up that holistic slingshot. Let's go in.
They're looking for it, potentially. Summoners available for Eli
Sick.
and Sir Pringles. Polymorphed, he can't flash away, he's taken out. First blood easily secured for BB. Sir Pringles might be next
two.
on the menu. One more also flashes forward,
Lovely.
and the silver bolts take him out.
Yeah, and just really good play from Greed there. Worth noting that the Condemn actually killed, so getting that animation cancel in as well. He's going to steal the Gromp. He does! No!
Oh, that's just rude, Morgana. Deandra Jarvan throwing out the swell sheet, trying to respond, but will not do it. What a beautiful gank in the bot lane.
Yeah, Sir Piggles, I mean, you may think that you're fine here, but look at the timing on this. Auto for Silver Bolts doesn't kill, and then the Condemn that comes through, that is the maximum damage that you could get in the frame that you had, right? You stay on that turret for another auto attack, there's a very real possibility that you die. That was the only way to get the kill and get out with absolute safety.
I tell you what, very, very well spotted, Rudy. I did not see that one at all, but obviously needed because that last sort of proc of the Silver Rocks wasn't quite enough damage. And once again, we're seeing Grecian Oxide have the lion's share of the pressure around this bot side, but even so, it's Deandra Jarvan and Sir Piggles that are going to be starting up this first Drake.
Yeah, and this is just a bit of a capitalization on tempo, right? We saw Greed and Oxide, they got to push in the wave, and they pushed in the wave all the way underneath the turret instead of just letting it sort of float. So instead, it means that once they push that wave in, they have the option of, okay, do we go for the Drake now and then sacrifice all of the speed that we've got, or do we go for the Mega Back where they get to catch this massive wave and still play for their laning phase quite handily? So they opt into that laning phase style, which honestly, you know, it's gone pretty well for them with that
Yep.
coming through. The wave is in a very good spot right now. And if they want to, they can do pretty much what they want with this. They've got double range, forcing people off the wave. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult, but apparently Sir Pickles is just walking up with impunity, so that may maybe not quite the take that.
Quite a Chad
correct,
gamer.
but
Quite a Chad gamer. Like, we've seen them play pretty aggressive, pretty far up so far this series, but when Greed has just got a full Vamp Scepter on Eli, definitely not going to be a fun time in the bot lane. And something to note is we saw that Drake taken a little bit earlier, a lot earlier than the Drake take in game 1. It means that Soul Oh no, Morgana. That's you never want to see that, man.
You're a jungler, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that has happened to me more than I would like to admit.
That's the thing, right? We all spot and we all comment on our different things. Me, I see that Greed buffers that condemning, knowing the damage perfectly. You are immortally.
Immortally. Well, yeah, it definitely immortally for the rest of my life. Seeing blue buff reset like that. Yeah, it's just not fun.
Nevertheless, does secure the blue buff after all that, and is going on an invade. This is the second one now where, you recall, stole the Gromp away from literally under the nose of DeAndre Jarvan. Misses the bowling ball, but can Pickles find an angle?
Ooh, that was nice from Grease. Dodges towards the top side of that tri-brush and then skirts back down towards the bot lane. So Pickles doesn't have a ward available, doesn't know where the Vayne is, so can't pick him up. And Morgano, seeing that DeAndre Jarvan is trying to apply this pressure in the bot side, is going, yo, I could take this red buff too.
He's just licking his lips right now. The entire top side is just at his mercy. Going to be collecting all of those camps. May well look to go for the Krugs as well. It might be a little greedy to go for the whole thing, but I mean, hey, you know, you never get fat without a little bit of greed every now and then, and that's exactly what this Zac is going to want to be in this matchup, being that beefy front line to protect the Zac, protect the Vayne, protect the Victor, make sure that they can DPS like mad people in the late game.
Yeah, and speaking of this Victor, we saw that Vegan did go for a bit of a more laning focus setup, right, with that area, with that Ignite, but they haven't really been able to secure the CS lead that you'd necessarily expect with that setup.
Not quite yet, and we did also see a couple of roams come through, right? This build path from Deuce as well is really not very laning focused at all. You can see from the gameplay in front of you that he does not care about this Victor. That's simply not the case. Walking up and clearing the wave, and at that point you start to think, well, what really can Vegan do? Because regardless of pumping lasers in, he's still just walking up, clearing the wave, walking out again. And you know, all credit to Deuce for doing it and getting away with it, I suppose. But sometimes you just gotta go for some all-ins.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go for it, as DeAndre Jarvan might be thinking about an all-in onto Roscoe. CDR Wolf still a little bit away from this engage, and it just results in that Rift Herald getting a little bit impatient with the Lilia and stomping off back to the Baron Pit.
I don't know.
Stop it. Stop messing me around. I'm not enjoying it.
Okay, now that is not necessary. I apologise.
That was an attempt at a Yorkshire accent.
Okay, now how many people from Kentucky do we think are going to know the specifics of a Yorkshire accent?
I may not have tailored my casting towards the broadcast audience.
On the Venn diagram of people from Kentucky watching the League of Legends stream and people that know what a Yorkshire accent sounds like in Kentucky, do we think we've overlapped well?
I don't think there's any overlap, but we're seeing some overlap here as Deuce and DeAndre Johnson getting thrown into that gravity field, and Vegan's going to pick up that kill with glee.
Okay, very nicely done. Those are some Victor books right there. Now got that augmented laser.
Oh no, Deuce is going forward, and that means the elastic string shot is free to go in. Morgano not quite getting the damage down, but Vegan might still go for this. Ignite not available though.
No, and that is sort of the saving grace, I suppose, here at this point, that you don't have that extra bit of kill threat coming through. I think an extra laser just tickled Deuce on the way out. Now Wolf, he's the one in danger here, as Roscoe doesn't have ult, but
Flash away, pulled back there as Roscoe is still around. But you can't do anything to the Malphite. Way too tanky. Full build, yeah, you see, got a Balmy Cinder.
Too much cheese wheeling.
Ah, yes, I do love the cheese wheel. It's possibly one of my favourite abilities in League of Legends just because of how derpy it is.
It might be the most infuriating to play against as well. You're trying to chase down a Malphite, he steals your movement speed, and you're like, how?
How?
What do I do?
Yeah,
what do I do now?
On,
He's won.
Hold up one sec. What sort of magical powers imbues a living mountain with the ability to steal movement speed?
Milcott, if we delve deep on the lore, we'll be here till Narnia.
As Vegan's not going to be here for very long. They're going to fall asleep, and they are going to fall into their grave. DeAndre Jarvan taking a tower hit, but not going down.
His turn is to be running away pretty promptly as well. Does successfully do so. But now Eli, oh no.
They've overstepped. Greege is huge right now. Gonna get stunned up, cleanses away and chases down onto Sir Piggles. The HCB bot lane cannot return any damage as Leona goes down, and Eli Maybe next to full, taken to 30% HP, but no 4.
Oh yeah, but look at the Morgano pathing right now as well. As we have got a bit of a brawl on the top side.
Yeah, these tanks just keep hitting each other. Minion Wave is on Roscoe's side. Searing Charge into the wall. Wolf, one more auto wave. Flashes actually to get onto that blast cone.
DeAndre, help!
Deandra's here to bring the backup. Goes unstoppable. Can't get hit by the ult. But the damage alone is enough. That was a close run thing. But HCB get a kill in the top lane.
That one had me sweating. I didn't know who was coming out on top of that.
Morgano taunted, but still able to get the elastic slingshot away.
Okay, and to go back to that top lane, right? One of those situations where both top laners are kicking one another's feet because they're like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done the other. And you know, DeAndre Jarvan ultimately was there to be the X factor and did manage to save his own top laner from going down. We are starting to see these slightly proactive plays on the jungler once again from HCB. Once again, when they're down in gold, and you know, at the start of game number 1, we were thinking, okay, well, this is looking pretty good. We're expecting this to, you know, surely come out on top. We're hoping that Bluebirds can start to snowball this game. But once again, DeAndre Jarvan just now showing the starts of a comeback. And maybe that this game number 2 could actually bear a lot more similarities.
Oh no, Wolf was recalling on a ward, he didn't know.
Cheese wheel, he's fine.
Barely got any matter, but cheese wheel, you're fine.
Simply cheese. Very easy. Malphite, champion, easy.
Easy. Press cheese, press R, win. Roscoe's not going to find him in that bush.
Even if he
gonna
did,
be able to push
just
this
cheese
wave.
wheel. He's out of
Just
there.
cheese wheel, and you are absolutely fine. It's infuriating that you're right.
Yep. I know. I said this.
Because it's such a stupid ability, but it's absolutely brilliant. Bluebird's going to use that bit of pressure on the top side to take out Shelly. 14 minutes have passed, so they're not going to be able to take down any turret plates with this. But it is still Bluebirds with that gold advantage. Only 1,000, not game ending by any means. But I am very, very scared for HCB because the longer that Greege is allowed to scale up on this vein, the worse the game is going to get for them.
Yes, I like that point. Whilst we're drawing similarities about, oh, well, DeAndre Jarvan's starting to find routes back into the game. You know, you can see this Yes lead that's out overcoming Morgano now. The state of the compositions is vastly different for these two teams. In game number 1, Bluebirds did not have late game scaling in their composition. They've got the Silas and they've got the Misfortune, who Misfortune certainly tends to be falling off of that late game cliff that we talk about so frequently. And Vayne, she does the opposite.
Yeah. Once she gets to 3 items, she's insane. Once she gets to 4 items, she's nutty. And once she gets to 5 items, your Nexus just automatically explodes. Late game, you do not want to be tussling with her at all. As DeAndre Jarvan might be in the wrong neighborhood, is stunned up against the wall, forcing out that hero's entrance, actually into a 3-person sleep. Taunt's going down onto the Vayne. The exhaust is dropped onto Sir Pickles as Vegan is in the front line. Is going to be taken out in short order. The Lilia will die in response, though. Now it's a 3v3, but Greege is full HP, pumping out the damage. That is a beautiful charge into a taunt, into a cleanse. Shield bow is popped. Extra life steal, extra damage, extra autos. Double kill for Greege.
Oh, and this Vayne is all off to the races. Ready to go now in this game, Middlecott. TP.
Oh, TP, that's going to be cancelled. Wolf, you didn't want to do that, but maybe you didn't want to do that. Roscoe, the ultimate thrown into his face. The dive coming through under the tower, the grasp. He's hitting the turret and he can't take him out. Roscoe claims the solo kill.
Rock smash. Rock
Rock smash.
Oh, my voice doesn't go that low, apparently. Apologies to everyone who just heard that absolutely pleb tier attempt.
Don't worry, we're getting a replay. We're getting
We
a
are.
replay, Rude Dude. Let's go.
Production saving me here, thank you very much. And to start off with, you get the sleep, you get the taunt. I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. We've caught the Vayne. But Vegan actually does such a good job at buying space, and I say buying space as being the sacrificial bodyguard, essentially, to keep the Vayne alive, keep them going. And then they find a secondary engage. I think, wow, they got Vayne again. There's no way this should happen. But they just didn't have the damage. And once again, this time around, it was Morgano being the bodyguard. But he actually managed to stay alive. 6-0 on the Vayne. Rageblade already completed. Tanks will not exist. And you will just get shredded.
It's a scary day to be Wolf, to be Deuce, because We've seen in the EULCS back in the day, Caps pulling out the mid lane Vayne as a counter into the Galio. And I feel like if Deuce is ever in a 1v1 against that champion, it is going to go the same way as that matchup did. Herald summoned in the mid lane just to get a little bit of pressure, get some damage onto that tower, but the real objective is this Infernal Drake. Second of the game for the Bluebirds and putting them closer to a very, very powerful soul.
And this is now the point where you start to thank your stars if you are Henry Clay Blue that they took that first dragon, the one that we mentioned. Oh, this one's pretty quick. 5-6 minutes into the game, they've picked that one up fairly early, and all of a sudden it starts to make a little bit of sense, because had they not, we could very well be sat at a soul point situation, and in 5 minutes time, I don't know that there's a way back for Henry Clay Blue just yet. And I don't know if there's a way back at all, honestly, right? We talked about the scaling aspect of this team too many times, but again, to reiterate, Breach is not going to get weaker in this game.
Although, Rude Dude, we're saying this, and I agree with you, there is a lot of scaling for Bluebirds. But the 20-minute mark in last game, something just clicked in Henry Clay Blue's mind. And they all started finding these engages. They started winning these team fights. So I think we'll have to hold up on any expectations for the time being, as Wolf is fighting up against Roscoe in a pretty exposed position, is able to ult himself away, flash over the wall, blast cone to escape. But that is a lot of tools burnt by one of your main engages.
That is not pleasant. Henry Clay, they now are without really any ways to start those engages, as a bowling ball could have been one of them, honestly. Cleanse up for Greed in about 10 to 15 seconds or so, so once that comes back, it's going to be feeling a lot more confident about their standing in the game. And you can see just standardly guarding, body blocking minions from even going down here with the absolute gravitas to say, yeah, you want these minions, you got to come through me to get them.
What I love is that every time Oxide pops the shield and the sort of whimsy onto Greed, there's that urge to sort of go forward a little bit, try and get a couple of autos into the enemy team, and maybe that's a tendency that could punish Greed in the time to come. What are we talking about, Rude Dude?
I've got a secret. It's not an urge. It's an instinct. Something you have to do. It's contractual. That's what it is.
A contractual obligation.
Yes, you get given a shield, you get given a whimsy, you have to step forward. It's physically impossible to get those buffs and go, safety time.
Safety time. Well, no, it's like, oh, I've got this extra 300 HP. I should use it.
Exactly. It's a contractual obligation to step forward and... Oh, if I can find an auto attack here, maybe I can start training people down. And with the Hearthbound Axe as well, a bit of extra movement speed on hitters. So, Pickles, you clear the ward, sir, but what at cost?
At what cost, indeed. Final hour. Use perfect cleanse away from Greed. The flash forced out from the Leona. In the last few minutes, we've seen Wolf and now Sir Pickles have to burn that flash defensively, not going forward, not finding the engages, not going the direction that they want to be going.
You know what, though, middle cut? I'll take that. If you're saying this from Henry Clay Blue's side, that's worthwhile to me. This may not be, though.
Yeah, as Wolf is going to get comboed. The flash means he can't get away, but the ultimate comes through just in time. And what do you know, there's another blast cone.
And that was actually a really good mechanical play from Roscoe there. I have to give credit where it's due. Calls the Forge God out. And you think, oh, when you're seeing that come through... everything's fine here. When you see that Call the Forge God come through, you think you've calculated in your head how long you've got until you need to burn your mobility spell. But what Roscoe does is he cheats that. He flashes right on top of the Malphite and then casts R2, gives him no time to react, and gets the knock up. Fortunately for Wolf, there's just not enough damage to find the killing blow there, and he was able to use the Unstoppable Force to get out to safety. But got to give credit where it's due to Roscoe, because that is something that not a lot of own players do. You think, oh, well, I've got my ulti, I don't need to flash to fully hit this, but you cheat it, you catch them off guard, and that's the sort of price that you end up getting back for it.
And an important thing, Rooted, is those engage ultimates are going to be available for this upcoming Infernal Drake. If the Bluebirds take this, it would put them to Soul Point, which is a massive point of pressure for a composition which is already scaling and is already rolling in this game. I feel like Henry Clay Blue, they're really incentivized to fight around this bot side river in the next few seconds. Otherwise, they're giving over such an advantage to the team from Highlands High School.
And they need to not do that, essentially. Believe it or not, Middlecott.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to win, giving over advantages. I will give you that one for free.
Thank you.
On those coaching tips. He knows. He can smell something's wrong. There's some like stinky odor lines emanating from the bush, but doesn't quite know from what.
There is, it's not from the victor as Vegan is finding them there. Charge up on the elastic slingshot. The Chaos Storm is doing a bunch of damage as well. First kill of fight secured for the Bluebirds as Wolf is in the backline. Deuce is in there as well. Greach trying to kite away with the Vayne. They're not quite able to get on top of him. So Pickles is there, but there's no damage. Greach is godlike. There's the damage. It's Eli dying on the backline. And it's Bluebirds who are just cleaning up this fight oh so easily.
Yeah, and desynced on the engages. Remember, all the way through this draft, we were saying Henry Clay Blue need to go forward as a unit. Need to allow or use Wolf, use Deuce as a sort of two-man band to allow for those engages, and then get Eli into the backline off of that.
Ooh.
Vegan may get the kill here as well as Deuce has to first force the Flash to get out to safety. But that fight, it's desynced. Nobody goes in together, and just one by one-ing into a Vayne is exactly what she loves.
Absolutely. 3 items now completed for Grage with that Wit's End. We talked about HCB maybe having a bit of a magic damage skewed composition. That means the Wit's End is going to be even more effective. Deuce making his way over, but this would be one of the most impressive Baron Seals I have seen in my life. Not going to come through. Blue team takes the Baron, and Bluebirds are on course to send us to game 3.
Yeah, and they've done a very good job in this matchup, this game, at rectifying the wrongs of game number 2. This is that engage around the dragon that we got to see to begin with. You can see DeAndre Jarvan flashing out of the Chaos Storm, but unfortunately into the fire right there. A great 3-man knock-up from the Unstoppable Force from Wolf, but the hero's entrance was on the Lilia, tried to save it, but just as Sir Pickles gets in, Wolf's already dead. There's no Kai'Sa ulti to come through either. She can't get into the backline to help out, and ultimately just very well executed team fighting and good positioning as well from, I believe it was Morgana, who was sat on top of the Vayne as well.
Yeah.
You got an extra body there? I mean, that's even more harder to try, even more difficult rather, to try and get to this Vayne, and we have another dead Fawn.
We have another dead Fawn, and we might have a couple dead more. So Pickles taking a load of damage in the back of his head as Morgana is going to take him down. Bluebirds, they are looking relentless in this game. Game 1 was a bit of a barn burner, a bit of a bang, a bit of a long haul as well, 39 minutes. But at 25, Bluebirds already knocking on inhib towers.
Yeah, and they've got Roscoe pushing in the bot lane as well. At some point, there's going to be a numbers mismatch. The wave coming in the bot lane, not quite synced up with the wave down in the mid lane, but here comes Call the Forge Guard.
It is answered by Eli, killing spree for the Morgano. And the Kai'Sa cannot do a damn thing. Wolf is going to get taken out as well. Deuce goes golden to buy barely any time at all. Greach is legendary. There's 2 members left for HCB, and there could be no members left in a few minutes as it looks like BB are going for the end.
3 people dead. There's only DeAndre Jarvan and Sir Pickles to defend their Nexus. Game number 2 in the balance. Can they do it?
They're backing away. They're scared, but they need to go now. They recognize that this game is out of their control, and Bluebirds strike back in game 2.
Really well played. They come back and send us to that 3-game series. It is the final, of course, Middlecott. We wouldn't have it any other way. I have to go to the full 3-game series to make sure that we have got the best of the best. And from these 2 games that we've seen, I have no doubt that's the case.
Oh, absolutely. And it was night and day from the first game. Bluebirds, they got that early advantage in a similar sort of position, but this time they were much more comfortable at pushing it forward, at shutting down what Deandra Jarvan wanted to do, and Greach looked absolutely disgusting on this Vayne. We're going to have to see if Henry Clay are able to fight back in our 3rd and final deciding game of the evening, or whether the Bluebirds have picked up enough momentum to clean it through right till the end. We're going to a short break now, but keep your eyes on this screen. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. off the rules, my life destroyed. A life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? Can I take? Can I be your superhero? Superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. 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 Fly away. It's the first time of today. Today. To dream, believe. You are the strength, you're all I need. Need. Oh, gonna give it a shot. Only one of me to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. 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 Can I be your superhero?
Hello there, and welcome back to the Play versus Kentucky KHSAA. Lots of stuff, League of Legends, Varsity. We're here in the finals. It's game 3. We have had a couple of bangers on our screens, Rude Dude, and I think we're in store for one more.
I certainly hope so, because so far we've had an absolute barn burner game number 1, a stomp game number 2, and this game number 3 could very well go either way. I still think that with the right tools, the right setup, that this is a one that, again, like I say, can go either direction. So far we saw Bluebird with that stomp, and then they got that early lead in game number 1. Game number 2, they were able to extend it. Game number 1, rather. Henry Clay, they managed to turn the game back around, and it was largely off the back of their jungler, but game number 2 wasn't quite able to have those same implications, those same levels of impact. And I think that if we look back at the draft for game number 2, Henry Clay Blue, it really limited them in terms of what they could try to achieve.
Yeah, it never felt like they were really able to sort of get off at the ground the same way that they were in game 1. And that Vayne from Greege was honestly such a mess. We once again saw the Bluebirds bot lane having the lion's share of the pressure, a lion's share of the advantage. But this time, crucially, they were able to transition it around the map and snowball it into a very, very rapid 25-minute victory. Now, the thing for me, Rude, is... How does Deandra Jarvin respond to it? How does the whole of Henry Clay respond to it? But in particular, Deandra Jarvin, because we saw that they weren't able to get off the ground in that game too, and we know how much of a key player they are for this team. Did it feel like it was the Lilia pick just not quite gelling, or was there something else going on? We are going to find out as we are jumping into Champion Select for the third and final time.
So once again, everybody on the same side, blue side for Bluebirds, as it should be. Henry Clay Blue, unfortunately, not able to get their home colours, are on the red side, but nevertheless, we're expecting to see a few changes in those bands. And to draw back to what you were saying here, Middlecard, I think that DeAndre Jarvin so far has shown that they've got an incredible aptitude for getting a good CS lead and then translating those into team fight successes. And, you know, Lilia really does fit that brief quite nicely, but you do need to have some slightly more stable lanes, and you can't have just hard outscaled team composition around you to go with that. So you want to either draft a little bit more scaling with your Lilia, or potentially a couple of earlier, stronger champions to make things happen with you. You know, the Galio, whilst we say, you know, has that really good early game spike, actually getting abused a lot in the mid lane. But we have got to, you know, monitor these bans now, because the Amumu we were expecting to see stay on the table.
There we are.
Triple AD carry bans away from Greed. So we know where Henry Clay Blue value value the carries of Bluebird, and it's exactly down in that bot lane role.
Now, rude dude. I reckon we're getting an all first pick here, locked in. A Malphite Kai'Sa, perhaps, this next rotation?
Are you trying to analyze a draft, Middlecott?
I think I may be.
Henry Clay. Your job.
Whoa. I can dip my toes into it if I want to. Henry Clay did draft that Malphite Kai'Sa combo both of the first two games.
That's what
all right, sorry, man.
That's what you get. No. Naughty play-by-play. Stop
all right, okay. I'll go back to yelling at stuff and being overexcited. Can you tell me about Ezreal Sona?
Well, you know, I wish I couldn't, Middlecott. They have too many things to say about Ezreal Sona, honestly. These two, I asked for scaling to come out of this bot lane, and I think that this is the embodiment of scaling here. And whilst you know, when you look at it, you may think, well, Ezreal, not particularly the champion I think of when I think of late game scaling, but this champion, if you can't get on top of him like a good Ezreal player shouldn't let you, is the hardest champion to kill in League of Legends, and I will stand by that till the day I die. And Sir Piggles had an amazing game on the Nami in game number 1, back on an Enchanter now in game number 3, who also scales absolutely insanely. Sona is one of the highest win rate supports in the highest elos when you get past 25-30 minutes, because of how much she can do in the late game. You just have heals. She is Yumi on steroids, believe it or not. Like, actually incredibly powerful at healing with the crescendo as well. It's an automatic Yumi ultimate. You know, you wait for 4 charges of Yumi before you get rooted, and you can still, you know, fire spells and stuff when you've got that. But crescendo, you stand there and you dance. That's what Sona does to you. Yeah.
And do you know what, right? Keep trying to remake crescendo, like that final chapter like you're talking about. We got the Seraphine ult too. I'm a fan of the original, okay? Sona's my girl. She's the first champion I ever made. Love her. We've had a few Yordles locked in this champion select, though. Blue Birds going towards that Lulu and the Veigar, which has been banned both previous games in this series against Vegan. Corky locked in for Deuce, and HCB throwing out a total of 580 carry bans. They are scared of Greacher. They have every reason to be.
So now then, Middlecott, I'm going to throw you under the bus again.
Thank you.
Actually, you threw yourself under the bus last time. What AD carry do we actually see for Greach?
Ooh, okay, so it's a difficult one.
There's a limited pool, so...
There is a limited pool. We got to hold that thought for now, because that is a Tom Kench locked in. Rude dude.
No holding the thought. You've got to pick.
Twitch.
Yeah, you cheated. We're beefing.
I called it before it was locked in.
Oh, yeah, good one. Oh, yeah. Twitch Lulu's a very good bot lane. And I'm angry at you.
I could tell, and do you know what? It makes me happy.
I know it does, and that's what makes it worse.
Oh, anyway, yes, analysis. Go, Lulu Twitch. What's up?
Right, so you can just... Do you remember when we talked about Vayne? You know, you get those buffs and you're contractually obligated to go forward. The same thing exists on Twitch, but this time you can do it invisible.
True.
Which is which is kind of crazy, honestly.
Yes.
You can just be sat in Fog of War as the Lulu, put shield, put polymorph onto the Twitch, and then all of a sudden this pseudo tank appears on me, and I get one shot from 900 units. And then I talked about the fact that Ezreal's a very safe, difficult AD carry to kill, but not against Twitch. Twitch is the answer here, because yes, you know, if you position yourself correctly, you know, if you put yourself in that sort of distance between midway between where you would expect to be farming and then the turret, for example, to safety, that's where you really excel on the Twitch. And I think that in this game in particular, when you've got a Lulu backing you up, you're really going to be loving life. You're going to be like, okay, well, I've been given the shields, the contract has been written, I'm now going to dive forward with the spray and pray on as well, and I don't even have to be in range of a mystic shot. I can just stand back and I can dish out the DPS from an absolute mile away.
And you know who I think is the exact sort of player that is going to play that aggressive style? Greach. Because this man loves going forward, loves dishing out the damage, and even though 580 carry bands were thrown towards him, I think that 6th pick is going to be pretty impactful in this game.
Now, of course, it doesn't come without its own drawbacks. Obviously, every champion in League of Legends has their strengths, has their weaknesses. The weakness for Twitch Lulu is tending toward that laning phase, but I think that actually in this support matchup specifically, that the Lulu has the edge over the Sona. You know, you can sort of supplement the damage that the Sona's going to take if you're using the help pick shield at the correct times, or even sometimes you can just out harass the Sona and the damage that she can look to put out. If you're playing in the minion wave, Ezreal notorious for being one of the potentially weaker laners because of how difficult it can be to land that poke. But if you do find it, I think that this bot lane, it's sort of been where the game has revolved around in game number 2, and I think that in game number 3, with a little bit of jungle assistance as well, either one of these two could step up to be that carry force.
Yeah, I think it's all about execution right now in this final game. It's all about laying it all on the line. And something that we're going to be seeing this game that we haven't had the chance to in the previous 2 is the Veigar for vegan in the mid lane. Banned out twice, has now been picked, has been an incredibly strong champion in the meta. And if we're seeing target bans towards it, I'm pretty sure this guy could do pretty well on it as well.
I'm hoping so. I love it at the minute. I recently just started picking up mid lane again. I love champions that build Ingenious Hunter in the runes and Everfrost, just because you get it onto like a 25 second cooldown when it's supposed to be like 45. And you know, I've effectively half the cooldown by killing people on the map, and then I've just got this random extra stun, extra slow that I can throw out. And obviously, right, vegan going to be very much aware of this tech. I would like to hope that you know, having the Veigar banned away a fair few games in a couple of games in a row, that those levels of intricacies are certainly there and ready. And if you go for the Zonyas as well, potential Dark Seal stacks, there's a lot of nuance to the builds that you can go for that really do set you up for success and set you up to not particularly ever die. And I think that on a Veigar and a control mage is really the leading goal.
And I think that what Bluebirds have actually drafted in this game 3, when I think about it sort of stylistically, very similar to actually their game 2 draft, right? We're maintaining the Ord and the Zac in that top side, in that top lane, and in that jungle. We've got a scaling control mage in the mid lane that has some very, very strong zone control tools. I would argue significantly stronger this time around with the power of that Event Horizon, that baby cage. And in the bot lane, we've got a hyper carry with an enchanter buffing them up. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, we do. Now there were some different pieces on the other side. It is worth noting. You tried to highlight the Tahm Kench. I cut you off at the pass quite abruptly.
Quite rudely, actually.
Hey, it's in the name for a reason. Tahm Kench, as a top laner, I actually think it's not slept on, right? It's fairly weak in the top lane traditional pool, but up against other tanks, actually has a really good time, because we've seen sort of these long drawn out engagements where you're going for grass procs. Once you get down to those low levels of HP, Tahm Kench has the power of either regenning up a quarter of it or just activating a shield and getting himself a second health, which is something that not a lot of tanks actually have the option to do. So when you're going into these melee versus melee, grass versus grass matchups, I can expect to see Tahm Kench having a very good time of things. And I think that if Wolf can fully utilize that, then he's going to be in for a good time as well.
Tongue Lash as well, the healing on that can be so impactful in those trades when you are getting to those low health values. But we're going to have to hold that for now, because we are jumping onto the Rift for the final time tonight. Bluebirds and Henry Clay Blue tied up 1 apiece in this final. The winner takes it all. The loser goes home with nothing. It's all or nothing. Let's get into it.
You know, and I was coming into this and I was thinking, how cool would it be if they had that level 1 fight? It's the thing that we've been set up, or the Bluebirds have been set up for every single fight, every single game. But then I thought to myself, well, how cool would it be if we didn't just flip the game at level 1? You know, I've had a few games of those. Where the game has been over before it really even began. But this is one of those games that I want to go the distance, because in game number 1, right, we highlighted that, okay, there's a scaling advantage on one side. Game number 2, there was a scaling advantage on the other side, and we got to see both of those in full force. This time round, scaling is going to come down to execution, because Corki Ezreal, they deal a lot of damage from a large distance. Vegan and Greege on the Vigar Twitch combo, who are, these are our 2 damage carries on either side that we're going to be looking to in the later stages, can deal a lot more damage, but that comes at a much greater cost of range. They don't do it from the same distance without having that element, of the ultimate used, for example, from the Twitch. And the Vegan doesn't have that option whatsoever, has to find a way to close that gap. And you can see that in the rune choices, cheating the sort of gap close capabilities with the Predator. Now, I want to quickly mention as well that you do have 2 frontline tanks that are going to be setting you up for CC. So there's extra external resources, external variables coming into the game that obviously are going to impact how easy it is for Vegan, for Greege to get that ball rolling. But this is also something different from DeAndre Jarvan. We've seen him full clear both games in a row. This is Red Wolves Gromp, it looks like. 3 camps, level 3, and a gank on the cards. I'd be interested to see which of the 2 lanes he goes to. You've got the option of mid and bot lane. If either one of those is pushing, there's at least some of the spells being burnt.
Yeah, but the difficulty is you don't really have much setup CC as Greege is trading aggressively into Eli's. Pop the ignite! And already we are seeing, once again, the Bluebirds dominating, taking control of this bot lane.
Really good play from Greege once again here. And I think that had he held that the Contaminate for just a little bit longer, the E there would have actually been in a kill position, because he actually got exhausted. And I think that popped the E on the edge of still being exhausted. Had that not been the case, would have been able to find the kill. Nevertheless, forces Eli back to the base, and seeing Wolf and Roscoe go head-to-head.
Going head-to-head they are. There's the Tongue Lash into the stun, popping that grey health for the shield. Roscoe knocking up into the wall and flashing away. You said that this Tahm Kench is going to be great in these early duels up against the tanks, and we're seeing it there.
Really nicely played, honestly, from both sides. I like that Roscoe sort of accepted his fate and flashed out to safety, and really a fan of the fact that Wolf is going for these aggressive trades early on, and the issue that he's got.
Double knock-ups, traded, unstoppable. There's the stun, there's the lick. No flash to escape. Tongue Lash, one more auto. First blood for the HCB top laner is Vegan, forced to flash away in the mid.
Can DeAndre Jarvan still get here? He's taken one of the crabs. They may look to fight for a second. No top laner, remember.
Yeah, this is looking like a bit of a 1v2 situation as he flashes back out. That's the jump away from Morgano. Deuce is here, full health, pretty much full mana as well. Zach going into the Bloblets, gonna buy a little bit of time as Vegan is trying to do as much damage as he can. The Blobs aren't being focused by DeAndre Jarvan though, but he does still get the kill. That's how you want to start at HCB.
No TP pre-14 minutes means that you can't go onto the Zac globules to save him early on. And we actually see the Blue Wolf getting stolen away as well. DeAndre Jarvan moves up to try and take this fight. Remember, they could have had a top lane roam here, but it's just the health clear difference of the Xin Zhao and the Zac. He's much healthier on the Xin and is able to pretty much brute force this fight. An almost very good cage keeps the Zac from going down, but it's not quite enough. And you can see that at this point, DeAndre Jarvan recognizes my only way out is in. I have to take this fight in order to stay alive. Using the health procs from the every third auto attack of Xin Zhao, and stays alive, sustains himself through the final baleful strike that Vegan would have loved to get the kill with.
Absolutely, and the thing is, Deandra Jarvan, he's had a great game one, a little bit more quiet in game two, but a consistent feature of both of those games that it wasn't about the early action. It was sort of getting to that level 9 mark where you've got one of your basic abilities fully upgraded before they've really started to put the pressure onto Bluebirds. They're coming out 5 minutes into the game, diving on top of Morgano, burning flashes on Vegan, making their presence known early.
And if we look back at the other games as well, they've been very slow for the first 5-10 minutes or so. So much so that it generally gives Greege and Oxide time to find at least a kill or two in the bot lane before anything particularly happens. But that has not been the case this match. Yes, they forced the early summoner spell. You can see that Eli is very much worse for wear in terms of the health, in terms of the experience and the CS collected. I have to hold it here once again. Here we go.
As they see the Whimsy go down onto Greege, and Eli and Sir Piggles showing the respect that the Twitch Lulu combination deserves. And I like the adaptation that Henry Clay have gone for here, putting Eli on this Ezreal, recognizing that he's not been having the best time in lane, not really been finding the advantages that you necessarily wanted to. Put him on something nice and safe, so even if he is dropping in terms of the CS department, at least he's not going down.
No, and you're quite right. This is the safety adaptation, I suppose, in this case, to make sure that we're not giving over those advantages too easily when you've got the arcane shift to get out to safety. It's obviously going to be something fairly useful up against a Twitch who can sort of spring on you from a moment or in a moment's notice. Now, you can see DeAndre Jarvan. He was spotted on a ward in that pixel just before it expired, but I don't know whether it was seen by Bluebirds in its entirety. So the Drake's going to get started up. There's a couple camps still on his top side for him to collect once he's done with this, so he can take this Drake and be done with the bot side, focus his attention on his top side where we've got some nice winning lanes currently. The Tomcat having a good time. We've seen Deuce in that 2v2 between the mid-jungles have a good time as well. So if he can get his way up there and start to play around his stronger side of the map, that's exactly what a jungler's going to want to do. And
I want to see if Morgano's going to be able to play towards their stronger side of the map, because whilst we talked about Eli being on the safety pick, still a little bit down. Wolf going for an engage onto Roscoe, who is able to searing charge back under his tower. Deandra Jarvan looking for something in the mid lane, already bursting Vegan solo! That cage ain't going to do a damn thing!
Yeah, when you're playing up against a Corki, you take MR runes, but that doesn't save you from a Xin Zhao. You just get one shot, really, by the Xin Zhao combo. 3 auto attacks, WE is enough to take him down, and really well played by DeAndre Jarvan. We talked about the fact that he needed to go through up to his top side to clear those camps. I didn't imagine that he'd do it through the mid lane.
Yeah, pit stop in there, picking up a kill is going to feel very nice. A couple of assists for Deuce, some more gold on this Corgi, which is such a strong caling pick. Definitely nothing to be sniffed at.
That's that 7 camp that I was talking about in games 1 and 2 that we finally we finally get to see picked up by one of the junglers here, and it's nice to see DeAndre Jarvan returning back to that game 1 form. Now, of course, we are still a far ways away from the fairly snowballed lead that they found for themselves. But look at the Twitch position as well. I want to touch on this one quickly because Region Oxide, they've got to push this in. They've got to force this under the turret so that they can reset it and now start to, you know, continue harassing Eli, continue harassing Sir Piggles from outside of underneath the turret. You notice that ward as well in the brush, in that third brush there, or the middle brush. Going to spot if they go stealth in the lane.
Yeah, and I think Eli and Sir Piggles have been very, very good at showing that sort of respect. I think they've been watching for the whimsy particle. You can actually see that popping onto Greege whilst they're in the cell. So that's usually a good way of telling where the Twitch is. Not the best positioning here from Wolf, as Roscoe's just going to clean him up with a solo kill.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a little bit too greedy, unfortunately. He wanted to crash the wave under the turret, but you can't really get away with this. It's, you know, full HP on with ulti. You don't have any real resistances to speak of at this point either. Gets knocked up on his landing after the dive, and, you know, Roscoe ends the flash. It's not the end of the world. You get that solo kill. You force the wave now fully under the turret, and you might even be able to collect yourself a plate or 2 as well.
Boop, boop, boop. Oh. Ding. Demolish proc, killing the bot lane. Sir Piggles actually taken down. Demolished Procs are quite cool. Like, you know what? Like, I've got to give something to top laners. They've been in the dirt for so long. The role has not been good for a while. So, yeah, do you know what? A little bit of gold. DeAndre Jarvan, though, flashing forward onto Oxide, who's going to have to reply with the summoner spell burnt of his own. But both of them fine under the tower.
All right, flash for flash. Lulu. Without theirs, it means that we do still have, Twitch having their flash, which is obviously very nice and very useful.
Sneaky.
That's the wrong film.
Yeah, it's Jaws. You want to be doing Jaws right now. Yeah. In the top lane, the Jaws of Oblivion are going to be claiming Wolf fairly soon. No, actually able to escape under the tower. The power of that shield.
Okay, well, the second health pool, shockingly, we take
good.
those.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Having 2 health bars is a good thing.
You're welcome, top laners. And Wolf.
Oh no!
I didn't even get a chance. I was going to say he's going to get outplayed. That's my favorite feature of Vigar right there.
Yeah.
Walk up, press R, outplayed.
It's huge outplay. Sidra could do that as well. It's basically every mid laner. DeAndre Jarvan, though, fishing for Roscoe up in the top side. No mana on the Ornn, so this is going to be a difficult fight if he chooses to opt in. There goes the audacious charge. Deuce is here as well, and Roscoe, I think you're just going to be heading back to the graveyard.
Unfortunately, therefore, the Forge God going to have to go back and forge himself some items from the safety of his own base. Obviously, having taken an L on the deaths column. But Vegan able to push in this wave, and obviously every action has its reaction, and Vegan is going to get a plate in this mid lane as an exchange for the kill that goes the way of DeAndre Jarvan. Yeah, just collect that plate, and there's a few bot camps as well that get traded back as well.
Ooh, Morgano now thinking about a dive onto Sir Piggles and Eli, who pops over the ward and spots out the Zac. They're going to be forced to jump away, and it has not been a good time for the Zac in this game. DeAndre Jarvan up 34 CS, already completed that gold drinker, and has 3 kills on the board. Definitely feeling a lot more like game 1.
And at this point as well, it's worth mentioning that you've been in laning phase up against a Twitch for 12 minutes. Henry Clay Blue, their spidey senses are heightened in this game.
Yes.
They're sniffing out jungle ganks, they're sniffing out Twitch stealths left, right, and center. They're on the defensive and they're happy to accept it.
Yeah, and they're happy to accept this. Drake would be the second of the game. And Bluebirds aren't really in a position to contest. Morgano popping that control ward over the wall. And then face planting into the wall, not going to be able to take that down. Roscoe looking for another solo kill here onto Wolf. Gets stunned up, knocked out, but the Time Kench surviving a little bit longer than you'd like. But he does get the kill in the end.
Yeah, there's a level advantage, there's an item advantage as well.
Oh, Deuce.
Bit of an airball.
Bit of an airball. Just going for a bit of a joyride in the mid lane. Has completed that cull, which we just saw pop over, so 350 gold in his pocket. Going to be feeling pretty good about that one, but Rudu, we've got more plates going into Roscoe.
More demolition on Smash. Now, I will touch on these items, never mind.
No, you won't, because we've got a kill happening in the mid side. Deuce forced to flash away as Sir Piggles is here as well as DeAndre Jarvan, but Greed and Oxide are also rotating up. Morgano has got that bonus HP from the Wild Growth. That's a very nice stun from Sir Piggles as he's continuing to buy more time, but DeAndre Jarvan is not going to escape. That's a shutdown, and it's going on to a Veigar.
It's going in all the right places here. Once again, we're seeing these carries step up when it matters. Credit to Vegan for making that play come through. He started that Predator to try and find a pick. It was onto Deuce of all people as well. But Bluebird's collapsing. They collapses this 4-man versus the 3-man. You can see that Eli is never going to feel confident using Arcane Shift Forward to get in range of this fight. Yes, that double stun looks good, but then Greach just pops out of it. He's able to come back and continue laying down the damage. Overall, kills going onto your Twitch, onto your Vigar, and those couple solo kills that we've seen in the top lane from Roscoe once again. When your kills go onto all 3 laners, it's kind of a jungler's dream. Morgano here hasn't had the biggest impact in this game, but his laners have certainly been making up for it.
Oh, absolutely. Egregious really sort of extended that CS lead in the bot lane to 40 and picked himself up a kill and assist in that engage as well, so he's sitting pretty. And the gold lead that HCB had accrued for themselves has now been equalized, so the only advantage that they've got at the moment, the only clear advantage, is those 2 dragons that they were able to pick up in the early game. And with another spawning in 3 minutes' time, they could be on the road for a sell point very, very quickly. Eli and Sir Piggles need to be careful, though. Reaches around. Where is he? He's coming out of the stealth, firing the shots into Sir Piggles, and there is nothing the Sona can do.
She's got lucidity boots and an amp tome. It feels bad on a whole other level, and now it's going to happen top as well. Flash is going to be used.
Yeah, DeAndre Jarvan burning that summoner spell without a second's hesitation, recognizing that they didn't have the pressure around Shelly, and the laners aren't coming to help them, so this is just going to be an objective going over to the Bluebirds.
And I mean, I want to say good credit to Deuce as well, because it's a roaming bot lane of Regen Oxide, who, you know, 9 times out of 10 find a kill in the mid lane. But this time round, Deuce backs off, recognizes, okay, switches in bot lane. Guess I have to play safe right now. And that's just that power of the roaming that we haven't really seen exemplified just yet. But all of a sudden, they overload just a little bit in the mid lane. They have Rick Herald as well that we've just seen them take. And I don't even know that they needed it for this turret, but it's sure going to make it a lot easier, even just in case. Yeah,
just get the guaranteed secure first tower of the game. Shelly probably not going to get a second charge here. Zeus is going to shoot her in the back of the head, but still more gold going over to the Bluebirds. The advantage definitely in their favor now, and looking at the health bar on this top lane tower, that bot lane is not going to be long for this world either. There's a lot of gold that they can pick up very, very quickly on the map.
Those cheeky economy turrets here, love to see those picked on up when you get the opportunity. Now we're looking at this top lane. He's on a ward here, Vegan, but I don't know if that's going to matter.
Predator pops so speedy on the Veigar. Roots up Wolf, who walks into the wall, gets stunned up, is able to absorb that primordial burst, and Roscoe is going to keep going forward with the Call of the Forge God, beautifully flashed away from to keep the Tom Ketch alive.
Yeah, so just a little thing for Vegan there. Whenever you put somebody in the baby cage, you always want to lead with Everfrost afterwards, because then you've got a pretty much guaranteed hit onto your W from the skies. And also if you put that in the center, when you don't have Everfrost, it also becomes near impossible to dodge if that E is still up. You have to walk into the stun or space very perfectly to get away without getting damaged by the damage from the skies, because it really does come through and pretty much hits the entirety of the inside of the cage there.
Yeah, that Dark Matter has like a 100% AP ratio, and if you know anything about Veigar, you know that he gets a fair bit of AP. I think we saw that he's got 106 from that phenomenal evil power so far, so definitely scaling up, looking at pretty scary. This Mountain Drake going to be the immediately focused from the Bluebirds, recognizing the danger that a soul point for HCB could have posed and making sure that they are not going to get one.
Really good, really nice little movement here. They recognize that they are stronger. Yep. Quick little extra little check there, but you have to recognize in those situations that, hey, we are the stronger team. We can make the plays, make the moves happen, and at this point, the game is starting to feel a little bit more controlled. The Bluebirds have slowed the pace of the game down. The tempo is certainly not at the same height, same extremities that we've seen from other games. But right now, it does feel like just a slow bleed out for HCB. I mean, if Henry Clay Blue don't manage to do something soon, it doesn't mean the game's over for them. They've still got this Corki Ezreal Sona scaling, but they are so far away from parity with their respective counterparts that it's going to take them forever to get to a point of power.
And it feels like at the moment for the Bluebirds, we're kind of just waiting for the map, the game, to get to the point where they can start to use these advantages, because they've got a couple of towers. We're still waiting for 1.5 minutes until the Baron is going to be spawning, 4 minutes until that next Drake. So the opportunity to find these fights isn't necessarily going to present itself unless one of the Henry Blue crew overstep.
Oh, okay.
Eli may have done just that, Grease diving under the tower. The flash is going to be forced, and that poison is not going to tick low enough. DeAndre Jarvan making their way to the bot side, as is Deuce, but they're just going to scare away the rat and his buddy Vegan, also coming down to help them out if needed.
Yeah, and I think that this is the time in the game, right? You're looking for a way to accelerate that pacing. Start getting a little bit more vision in the enemy's jungle. Start trying to place some wards down and track where DeAndre Jarvan is going, because that's the only real member that you're scared of, really, if you are Bluebirds in this game. So if you can keep tracking that Xin Zhao and you happen to see him on a topside ward, for example, it makes diving this bot lane incredibly easy. We're already at the point in the game where the damage is most assuredly there. Kraken Slayer plus Last Whisper for Greach already. He is absolutely monstrous at 19 minutes into the game. So as long as you've got a tank there, that turret at this point, it's kind of offering fake safety, because if you've got a Zac, he's got his Sunfire Aegis, he's going to take forever to die under that turret, particularly when you've got things like Wild Growth, Lulu Shield coming through, and a heal as well on top of that. That turret doesn't actually offer you as much safety as you may think.
Yeah, bit of a paper tiger in that regard, and I'll have to see if it collapses atop the members of HCB's bot lane. Seen a little bit of a swap in terms of the lane assignments. Greige and Oxide moving towards this mid lane, and Vegan with that teleport posted up in the bot lane. And you're right, Redo, it has sort of slowed down in this final game, and I think that just reflects how maybe apprehensive, maybe nervous both of these teams are. They really don't want to overstep. They really don't want to make that mistake that would cost their team the game.
Still a level lead for DeAndre Jarvan in the jungle. But outside of that, trying to draw advantages for this HCB squad is none too easy, unfortunately. Deuce, has a level lead as well there. Slight CS advantage, but when you look at the kills, you look at the takedowns, the Vigar, probably has, similar, if not more, gold than the Corki, so that advantage not particularly relevant to bring up. And working toward what is, the components of either a Shadow Flame or a Rabadon. So down by 500 gold, actually, a little bit more meaningful than potential. But we look at the bot laners, and that 500 gold seems to sort of pale in comparison.
Yes. Yeah, that's the real difference maker. And honestly, that's just been the way it's going this entire series for Greach. And for Oxide, they've been able to generate these advantages, and now with that Lord Dominic's regard complete, these tanky boys, the Wolf and DeAndre Jarvan, are going to be a lot more squishy than they were a few seconds ago. A minute until the Drake spawns. It would be the third of the game for HCB. Second Mountain Drake picked up if Bluebirds are able to secure it. But as it stands, they're the ones moving their bot lane a bit more towards this top side, potentially looking to catch out Wolf.
Can they do it, though? He's not got a turret to fall back to, so again, fake safety.
Yeah, does still have that Abyssal Dive. Is going to be forced to flash and use that ability to get away. Someone has burnt off the Tahm Kench. Not massively impactful, but it's something that you'll take nonetheless.
And I think they got a random turret passively down in the bot side as well with that. So overloading on the top side and still getting structures on the bot side is really good news for Bluebirds. Now, you can see with all of that expenditure onto the top side, they do miss out on setting up for this dragon. It spawns in 25 seconds, and they have to face check into darkness. So Pickles is here waiting, has got that crescendo ready for anybody that steps in a bit too far forward.
Yeah, I feel like if Vegan could have potentially been caught there, Deuce has picked up the package. 2-level advantage on Vegan. This Corki with the upgraded Mirror Mana is hitting like a truck right now. Wolf TPing in. This could be a fight that really sets the tone for how this game is going to go. Roscoe calling the Forge God going forward, but it whiffs completely. Deuce diving onto the backline, trying to take out Vegan and shuts him down. Dead. He can't use the ult. That's 2 kills for HCB as DeAndre Jarvan is trying to take out Oxide in the front line. Look at Eli, he's still alive. Roscoe does slay the Jinjiao, gets a double kill for himself as Morgano goes over the wall. Can't quite get to Deuce in time. And it's HCB, it's Henry Clay that find the fight. They might find Roscoe as well, but they are not going down in this game without a fight.
The game hanging in a balance off the edge of a precipice, and it is HCB who step up when they need to. That fight goes wrong, the game is over. But they step up when the time is right. DeAndre Jarvan, the player we've been hyping up this entire series, or Henry Clay Blue, finds the fed. Twitch takes him down before he's able to dish out meaningful damage. And a really good package from Deuce as well. He takes out the Veigar before he's able to pump anybody with any sort of damage. That ult's still up. Incredible team fighting. But it's not over. By no means is this over. It equalizes, it stabilizes the game state. Soul point over to Henry Clay Blue. But this game's still very much a tense one.
Yeah, in the balance. as it were. And the later we go, the more that tension rises, the more that each mistake is going to cost you. Yeah, it was just a Drake there, but if that pick happens, if that fight happens in 5 minutes time, well, maybe it's a Soul, maybe it's a Baron going over to your opposition, and you do not want to be giving up an advantage like that in a decisive game 5. Oxide and Greege, they're behind enemy lines, potentially caught, but who is catching who? So much damage from the Twitch already. Those 2 items completed. The True Shot barrage is not quite going to connect. The TP coming through from Deuce, no package available, but we are getting a full-on brawl in the bot lane. Roscoe throwing out the Call of the Forge God, the baby cage to keep the Corki locked in, but he flashes away and survives on single-digit HP before he shut down. Deandra is able to take out the Jarvan as Roscoe is acting a beefy boy in the backline, cannot take him down. Eli is dead. Deandra Jarvan is going to be falling soon. And oh my word, these fights are so explosive, so back and forth.
It's a TP difference here in this fight. The Ornn can come down, the Tom Kench can't. Greege takes about 30%, gets himself down to about 30% HP off of just long-range spells. And if that True Shot barrage hits, Greege probably dies off engine. This fight goes entirely different. This Valkyrie forward from Deuce is a little bit too overzealous, mispositions himself, and he's largely out of this fight. If he stays alive this long is actually incredible regardless. DeAndre Jarvan doing what this Xin Zhao needs to as well. Jumping into the backline at a moment's notice and causing as much disruption as possible. And Eli, unfortunately, just getting caught by that Dark Matter means that he's going to get swiftly picked on up. But your lead, you know, the thing that you had to mention, Wolf wasn't there for any of that. There was no Tom Kench, there was no front line there specifically for taking damage for Henry Clay Blue.
Yeah, also no Devour, which is one of the most broken ultimates in the game. The ability to save a teammate and grant them a massive shield is so disgusting, as Greege is just playing with his food. Just doing Twitch things, walking up in a lane, waiting for someone to overstep, knowing that a few shots from that crossbow are going to take them out in very, very short order. Now, we see Bluebirds posturing around the Baron. Maybe they want to force a fight around it fairly soon. Maybe they think that they've got enough damage to take it down this early on into the game. They're looking for Wolf, and they may have found him, but he's able to Abyssal Dive away. That could leave HCB with an opportunity to actually get into the fight.
Now, I want to draw your attention to the items here, because we've been hyping up Greege for good reason. If we look at the most fed member in this game, it's Deuce. He spent a large portion of this game just farming up, picking up kills in team fights, and becoming an absolute menace. We've got 3 completed items of Void Staff as well. He's going to be dealing near true damage to anybody without that magic resistance right now, and that includes Greege. It includes Oxide, who are yet to pick up any form of resistances up against this Corki. So if they get caught out, if they're one step too far forward and they get hit by a big one, that is a ton of damage that they've got no way of getting back.
And I have to be careful, because in 1 minute and 15 seconds, we are going to have Soul on the table for Henry Clay Blue. Mounted would be so massive against the burst that the Bluebirds want to throw out, against this Veigar, against this Twitch, these damage dealers that need to kill people quickly in fights.
And we look at where the kills are as well for Bluebirds, right? It's a 7-kill on this game, which, as laughable, as memeable as that is, when you think about it realistically, imagine that's a 7-kill Twitch. Yeah. That's an Infinity Edge completed for Greaves. That's Onya's, a Vegan. They're grouping up. They want to take this Drake fight, and you can see this is another one of those that, with the game hanging in the balance around the tides of this dragon, around the timer of this fight, one step too far forward. If Greege goes for that and doesn't have the reflexes, doesn't have the ability to flash crescendo, gets collapsed on, there are all of these things hanging in the balance as Deuce sat in the base, waiting for package, gets it, TP's in, with the game firmly sort of waving, topping and turning. They're just going to fight.
Forge God has been called. Stun onto 2, knock up onto 2. Deandra Jarvan buying time with the Crescent card. As into the backline goes Deuce, and he gets taken out. Vegan with the kill, and that means that the Bluebirds are going to be singing a beautiful song tonight. Greege with the 2nd kill of the fight as they are continuing forward. The disengage just coming through in time from HCB,
Three-man
but they've
cage.
overstepped once more! What is that damage? You could have escaped with only 2 going down, but it looks like it's going to be your whole damn team.
And that's the Baron as well here. Middle court game number 3, the decider of the championship. Bluebirds are the ones who step up huge when it matters. Deuce, Valkyries in to the backline. He goes through an event horizon and it stuns him on his landing. It means he can't do anything upon approach and he gets absolutely annihilated when he lands. Siege left alone this entire time, event horizon after event horizon. Forces flash, forces summoner spells. Wolf is not in the spot to help out either. And then this is beautiful as well. Sir Piggles is probably 90% HP, gets one shot without an ulti. With 3 people getting caught up by that event horizon, you said it in the fight middle court, you could have got away with 2 going down. Instead, they get rid of all 5. The Baron goes the way of Bluebirds. And with 2 Drakes on their side, it's not like they're about to pick up a soul anytime soon. With 2 turrets outside the base, they can pick up a lot of gold.
Yeah, and maybe this is the decisive advantage that one of these teams needed in this final game to go through and claim the championship. Greege getting sped up, running forward, chasing down Deuce. Vegan has popped the Predator as well. They want to kill this Corki, but those missile barrages are hitting like something else.
Yep, I mean, you lost a fight. It doesn't mean that you lost all of your power in the game. This Corki's still incredibly fed. Andre Jarvan wisely flashes away to safety. I'd rather you burn the flash there than your ultimate because there's likely to be a fight impending very, very soon. And with the Baron not up for about 5 minutes' time, the likelihood is that is going to come back up about the same time as the flash blizzards out.
As going on to Roscoe,
He's
but
tickling this
I
all,
really don't think the Ornn gives a damn. Calls out the Forge God, fires it into the face of the Jin Chan, will clap him in the head. A legendary performance from the Bluebirds top laner. We said maybe we don't want 7 kills on him. Well, he's got 9. He might have 10 soon enough, as in the mid lane, Wolf is being locked in that baby cage, and the tower is being taken out. Bluebirds, they're going forward, they're playing with aggression, but there is restraint there. They don't want to overstep. They don't want to make that mistake. They don't want to force it too much. They take the inhib and they rotate to bot lane.
The best part of Roscoe right now is that he's got his 1 magic resistance item and that will do him service for the remainder of the game. He can go for as much armor as he possibly desires. He can even go for a gargoyle as his last item if he chooses, just to be even more menacing, even more obnoxious, even difficult to take down. While they've still got this Baron here middle court, they don't want to back away, and I completely understand. They've got the window, they've got the health pools to keep on going, and with all the damage that Roscoe did on that bot tier 3 turret, it's a stiff breeze away from going down.
Yeah, 30 seconds remaining on the Baron buff, and I think it's going to be enough. Deandra Jarvan knocked up. But the engage not committed to by the Bluebirds. 3 items on both of their carries. Vegan and Greege are so incredibly powerful right now. The call of the Forge God comes out into the double knockup. Deuce already taken solo, already taken out, and Greege is playing everything black right now. Double kill for the Twitch. Inhib's gonna go down, and I think this might be the end of the game.
Oh, they cut off a leg and instead they go for the entire body. They got 1 in here, but they want all 3. They want the championship here.
Stun onto the Jin Zhao. Deandra Jarvan, who was the carry for HCB in game 1, will fall for the final time in this game 3. And Bluebirds are your Kentucky KHSAA High School League of Legends varsity champions.
And congratulations to the Bluebirds. A valiant victory, well fought through an entire 3-game series. A much-deserved victory, a much-deserved crown on their shoulders. We get to see the bracket, see the journeys they traversed. From White, Lakers legends, and Henry Clay Blue, nobody could stand in their way.
Nobody at all. The team from Highlands High School putting out a beautiful performance in that final game, coming back from being knocked down in game 1, showing that resilience, showing that determination, showing that power, and picking up the dub in the end.
And credit to Greege. He got 5 bans in this final game, and he still put the team on his back. Now, there were a lot of supporting influences, because that Ornn in the top lane, I don't know how many kills he managed to end up on, but it was definitely 9 pre that final fight. And he was an absolute menace, actually putting the team more so on their back as well, because there was 2 carries from that fight and he was engages and he tried to be the third. He was just bigger, dealing damage, taking damage, and doing everything necessary.
Yeah, fundamentally a team performance and great stuff from every single member of the Bluebirds. That's going to be doing it for us here at PlayVS. It's been wonderful commentating this matchup here with you, Rudude. I hope that we get the chance to do it again soon. I have been Middlecott. Stay safe on the Rift. We'll see you soon.